path of tshuva. However, in the case of the situation where the community is in a situation of distress, calamity, man has not recognized that he has sinned. All he's doing at the moment is crying out to ask the Rebbeinu Shem to help him. So how does this fit into tshuva? So what the Ram is going to say, and I'll read it, is that this is the process. Once man is trembling at the situation he's in, he becomes introspective, and then he thinks maybe I have not done things the way I should have done them. And then he moves ahead and questions and then does tshuva. So it's the path towards tshuva, it's not tshuva itself. That's Dalkei tshuva, the path towards tshuva, I would translate it. V'dov zeh midalkei tshuva, shebizman shetovo tzora v'yiz'aku aleh v'yoriu. When man is faced with calamity and he cries out to God and he plays this instrument, the chatzos, yedu hakol, man, the whole community will know, shebeglal ma'aseim horoyim hu alahen. It's because of the way they conduct themselves that this happened. Kakosuv avonuseim hatu. It's because of your sins. V'zehu sheyigroim lahem lohosei atzom elehem. And by doing tshuva, this will cause the distress and calamity to be removed from them. Avol im lo yizaku, if however they don't react like this, they don't call out to God, v'lo yiriu, and they will not play this musical instrument, which I assume is somehow expands or unites with the Za'aka. This is a historical coincidence. That's what's happening. It's just a coincidence. It's an expression of complete lack of empathy, of being hard and not interested and not introspective. And they continue with the evil ways. And there'll be other and new tzoros. If your interaction and your relationship with God is a relationship of keri, everything is a coincidence. The keri of the Rebbeinu Shalom will be expanded and it will be a lashon of chema, of anger and vengeance. Hamas keri. Kloima, she'ovi aleichem tzora, kadei she'atshuvu. The purpose of the tzora is you should be chayzer b'tshuva. Im toimu shu keri, oisif lochem chamas oisa keri. It will get much worse. Then the Ram says the Rabbanon added something new to this, because the mitzvah of za'aka, of to cry out, which is very different than tefillah. It's the crying of almost an animal who's in pain, or not an ambassador as in tefillah with a nusachat tefillah, but it's a person in pain, in distress, not knowing, it's just crying, almost an animal cry of hurt and pain. The Rabbanan added here also to this ta'anis. Midivri Seifrim, Lis'anuis al kol tzor shetovo al tzibor, ad shiruchmu, yochumu min hashamayim, ubnei atinis elu, zokim, betfilus, u'mischanenim. There's a whole seder of zokah. The zokah and the tiniest merge. ומסחננים מרירים בחצוצרות בלבד. Okay. However, the idea of tinus is not plain, just not to eat. The idea of tinus is to merge together with this whole process of za'aka and tshuva, of crying out and doing tshuva. In fact, the Rav related once that he said he heard from his uncle Biskarov that after the First World War, the Rabbonim wanted to be establish a fast day. And he said that the Zayda Rab Chaim was very much against it. Why? Because tinus in an Eis Sorah is a vehicle of tshuva. Rab Chaim knew very well the Weltanschauung, the way people look at things, and he didn't believe that this would any way lead to tshuva. And in fact, he probably felt that it was it would be a kitrug on Klal Yisrael. And Chaim prevailed, and they were not going to tinus. But that is, tinus goes together with tshuva. And this is a prelude to tshuva, but we want to have tshuva. Not only now, and what do they do on a tinus? The Ram says at the end of the first parak of Hilchos Tainiyos, Perik Aleph Halacha Yud Zayin, V'vi hayoim o achroin, mispalalim, mincha, u'mischanenim v'zoakim, u'mizvadim, kefi koicham. The whole end, the last quarter of the afternoon, is spent on a zo'aka, but coupled with vidui and the understanding that there was chet and doing tshuva. The Rambam goes a step further. One would have assumed that this whole idea of zo'aka is at a moment when there's a moment of distress. We don't know what's going to be. We don't know how it's going to be. People can certainly connect with this in these the trials and tribulations which we're going through at the moment. So there's a reason to be zoik to HaKadosh Baruch Hu. But historical events which occurred millennia ago, we don't feel the distress, and a priori it should have nothing to do with this idea of zaka. The Rambam does an amazing thing in Perek Hey of Hilchos Tainiyos, and what he does is it connects the historical fast day to the fast day, the spontaneous fast day of stress and distress and calamity. And the Rambam says the following in Perek Hey Loch Aleph: Yesh shom yomim shekol Yisrael misanim b'hem. There are days that the community, the Jewish community, are fast. Mipnei atzoros, sheiru, the calamities that happened already. So the Rambam, who's the master of organization, who has organized this in Hilchos Tainiyos and puts in Hilchos Tainiyos, l'cheira has something to do, because the Ram says at the beginning of each set of halachas that these dinim are going to explain the mitzvah. What does this have to do? So comes the Rambam and says in very, very terse terms, Kedei le'oire halavavos v'liftoyach darkei tshuva. This is also darkei tshuva. Why and what is it? How can it be? This is a historical event. That it should remind us of our evil deeds. Shehoya kima'asenu. It's all the same. Ato. Now. Ad shegoram lohem velonu. This tragedy relates to us. Oison hatzoros. Lohem, to them, velonu. It means somehow this tragedy relates to the whole community. We are all one. As the Gemara says in Holies, the whole community is one, is en sibo meis, because as what the Rav called the covenantal community, it's not a community, any individual era, but it's the sum of all the people from Avraham Avinu ad Yemos HaMashiach. Shebezichroin dvorim elu, by understanding this and understanding that our ma'asim oroim, noshuv lehetiv, will do tshuva, shenema vizvadu es avoinom ves avoin avoisom. It's not only their sins, but also our sins. And therefore, a tiny sibur should be a day of slichos. And we do find slichos. Slichos basically consist of a vidui, of talking, invoking the Yud Gimel Midas, a vidui, invoking Yud Gimel Midas, and tchinos, asking God for help in this terrible situation. Okay, and we find slichos on Gimel B'Teves, Gimel Tishrei, Asor B'Teves. We find it okay. What the Tainus Esther is, I'm not getting involved in that. And we find it in Shivos B'Tammuz. But we don't find it on Tisha B'Av. However, that's not true. Because if you look in the Siddur of the Goinim, at the time of the Goinim, you'll find Rav Amon Goin calls on to say Slichos. And if you look in the Siddur of Rav Sadi Goin, you'll find that he composed 2 Slichos for Shivos B'Tammuz and 11 Slichos for Tisha B'Av. So this is exactly what we would expect. Tisha B'Av is a tiny sibur, a day of introspection, a day of crying out to HaKadosh Baruch Hu, with a culmination of slichos, which is exactly what we would have expected. And for some reason, this is not the way our minig is. And it certainly should be important. And one of what I'd like to focus on, what is our minig and what exactly happened? So the first clue of this is the Gemara in Psochim in Mokum Shenogu, in Nundal and Amud Beis, V'Amar Rabbi Yochanan, Tisha B'Av Einoi Ketainis Sibur. It's the first Einoi Ketainis Sibur. V'chulei, and I'm skipping, Elamai Eino Ketainis Sibur, L'Tfilas Ni'ila. In all Tainis Sibur, there's a Tfilas Ni'ila Yom Kippur. V'Amar Rabbi Yochanan Levai She'ispal Odom V'Hoilech Kol HaYoim Kuloi. So Moses is Chayv V'Shus V'Bois Eima Mai Eino Ketainis Sibur Le'Esrim V'Arbo. There was an addition to the Shmon Esrei. There was 24 brachas altogether, and brachas talking about Tchino and asking the Rebbeinu Shalom for help. And this is not a Tisha B'Av, even though on a tiny Sibur there is such a thing. So this is the first glimpse we see in Talmud Bavli that Tisha B'Av, there's something different, We find in Tisha B'Av Avelus. Tainis Sibor is a special Tainis Sibor. You have, besides not eating and drinking, you have there's a rechitza. You're not allowed to wash yourself. You're not allowed to wear shoes. There's tashus amita. Okay, there's a tiny sibor, but there's also on Tisha B'Av there's avelus. We find there's an Isa Talmud Torah and other Nihugi Avelus, and the Gemara discusses this barichus, all the Nihugi Avelus of Tisha B'Av. So we have on Tisha B'Av, on one hand, it's a fast day, a public fast day, which a priori should have had tzlichus. On the other hand, we find it's a day of Avelus. The question which we have to ask ourselves is, what is the relationship between Avelus and Tainis Sibor? Or is there a relationship? Is there somehow an antithesis that these two concepts are absolutely antithetical? What I'd like to quote here is the Yerushalmi. And the Yerushalmi seems to say that there is a stira, there's a contradiction between Tainis Sibor and Avelus. And this will be the kernel to try to understand our minig. The Yerushalmi in the Rosh Hashanah, Perek Gimel, Halacha Daled, discusses this, which the Bavli quotes Rabbi Yechanan as saying you don't pray the prayer of 24 brachos on Tisha B'Av, starts with that assumption and asks the question and quotes Rabbi Yechanan that they actually did pray 24 brachos, which is an amazing thing, a complete about-face. V'yispalu lefonov esrim ve'arbor. That's the Yerushalmi's question. And what's the proof? Kahadah Rabbi Yechanan mispal b'Tisha B'Av esrim ve'arbor. Rabbi Yechanan, who's quoted in the Bavli, is the one who's saying you shouldn't do it, is quoted in the Yerushalmi as he prayed the 24 prayers. So basically, is a bona fide Tainis Sibor. However, Rabbi Yochanan did, he's a commanded to his Talmidim, umefaked leTalmudoi, lo yisilfon mini hodein uvda. Don't learn from me. His Talmidim look and they try to see from the Rebbe, whatever they try to do, and they do the same thing. Uvd, hodein uvda de tzrichehi. There's a time of calamity now. And that's why I have the 24 brachas. And then this very interesting expression, Yerushalmi, I'm not even getting involved how to interpret it. You'll see for yourself what it says. And it says, Ovilhu, Tainis Sibuhu. Question, Yerushalmi is asking a question. Is it a day of Avel? Is it a day of Tainis? Is there a question? We have to see what the Yerushalmi is actually asking. But the important thing for us is the continuation of the Yerushalmi, where it's clear what the Yerushalmi's opinion. Rabbi Yosef, B'Shem Rabbi Yeshua ben Levi, Eino Tainis Sibur. It's not a community. But we're fasting. What do you mean, Eino Tainis Sibur? There's no Chaf Daled Brachas. We'll question what that means. Rabbi Yoina, Rabbi Yitzchak, Rav Nachman, B'Shem B'Shuba Levi, they say the same thing with a different flip. Ovelhu, Eino Tainis Sibur. being a day of Avelus is a stira, is a contradiction to a sinus sibur, and therefore we don't have Chavdal Brachos. The Bavli just says that it's Enu Ketayna Sibur, doesn't say why. The Yerushalmi quotes Rabbi Yochanan is doing it and says it was nothing to do with this, and says that the Avelus is a stira, is a contradiction to the Tainus Sibur. In Oz Ruah, in Hilchos Tisha B'Av, Simitov Tes Zayin, Messiah Hossam interpreting the Yerushalmi, Rabbi Yonah b'Shem B'Shua ben Levi, Ovel, Avol Mispal, Arbo Loi Omer El Arbo Ho Esrim VeArbo Loi, Upirish Arbo Loi Yisbar Alon, and he says that he says that what happened by Yechanon, even if it wasn't Tisha B'Av, they should megoiza Tainus Sibur. And he says, "Avol mipnei Tisha B'Av ein mispalin kedin Tainus Sibur. Hilkoch slichos nami ein mispalin." There's no slichos on Tisha B'Av. The same way there's no Chavdal and Brachos. Not the way Rav Amram and Rav Sadia concluded, but Adarabah. In Rabbi Yochanan's memory in the Bavli, and clearly in the Yerushalmi, there's no Chavdal and Brachos, and it's a Yoim Ovel. Shu minik Tainus Sibur dumya the Esrim v'Arbo. So somehow, the word Ovel means that there's no Chavdal and Brachos and no Slichos, which is amazing because the quintessence of Tainus Sibur is to do tshuva and to Slichos. You're basically emasculating the day. The day, which is based on the deraisa of doing tshuva together with slichas and za'aka, has become emasculated, becomes a tainus without slichas. The Rav said, this is an expression. He wasn't explaining this Yerushalmi, but I assume that that's what he meant also. The word Ovel means that, as it says in Megillas Eicha, Sosam Tfilosi. That the tefillah, somehow, there's an iron curtain between man and the Rabbeinu Shalom, and the prayers are not answered. Therefore, we don't say Tiskabel on Tisha B'Av, which is only a minute. There's nothing in Bavli about it. The Mordechai, in it's in fact you find the Mordechai in Meseches Tainis in Hilchos Tisha B'Av where Mis Tofreish Lamed Hey ve'eno mit Tiskabo mishum Tichsiv Sosam Tfilosi. In Marzavitri says they don't say Tachnun. We don't say Tachnun on Tisha B'Av. Ve'enem Neufel al Pneim mishum Shenem Sosam Tfilosi. Now, in the Sefer HaPardes of Rashi, Uliacha say the Kedusha in Hilchos Tisha B'Av. Uliacha say the Kedusha in Mashlim and Kaddish Tiskabel Tzloisen. You don't. There's no Tiskabel. Avokodim Kinois Mashlimin. V'chein b'Shachris Kmo Kein Uliacha Kinois Eino Mashlim Kaddish. V'taimu shel dovo mishum dichsiv bekinois gam ki ezak v'ashaveya. Even though I'm crying, sosam tfilosi shesosam bi'ise hayoin tfilosenu b'meilev avelus. Because of avelus, there was a stimus at tefillah, and that's the Yerushalmi that the stira of Elhu Eino Tiny Sibor, that somehow this contradiction puts on a new, having a emasculated Tiny Sibor, fasting, but without Zaka, without Slichais. So now, we understand what Tisha B'Av is not according to our minig, and the minig l'cheira is based on this Yerushalmi, that Ovelhu, and as Rashi and Sefer HaPardis interprets it. Okay. The question is, what do we do on Tisha B'Av? What is Tisha B'Av?
You can't escape the sense that since the Amoraim mentioned in the Yerushalmi, all Amorai Eretz Yisrael.
What?
That since the Amoraim mentioned in the Yerushalmi, even in the longer list, all Amorai Eretz Yisrael, and Yerushalmi posits this notion of Avelus, and then you skip to Reb Saidigon, who's in Bavel, that perhaps there's a different approach, that the Avelus is more felt in Eretz Yisrael.
What's saying? No, sir. I do, okay. But I was going to wait till I get Mesech HaSofim, point out, because there's more to the puzzle than you. You see, you certainly can make a statement there's something between Eretz Yisrael and Bavel, okay? That you can document, okay? Why it's so, whether it's this or that, it could be that you're correct, but it's speculation. I wanted to, and you'll see, I'm going to give more pieces to the puzzle. And if you want to, I was going. You'll. What's that? Beseda. Okay, Beseda. The interesting thing is, let's start before Talmud Bavli, before Talmud Yerushalmi, before the Amoraim. Let's go to Tanakh, okay? The question is, how was the tinus of Tisha B'Av, how was it canned at the time of the Nevi'im, okay? How was it canned, okay? It's a very interesting thing. After Binyan Bayis Sheni, okay. After Binyan Bayis Sheni, there was a question in Zechariah, in Perek Zayin, Posik Beis, through Hey, Vayishlach, Ve'eskel, Sar, Oitzer, Rogam, Melech, Ve'anosher, V'chalos, Es Peri Hashem. They sent messengers. What was the message? What was the message? Leimor el Kohanim, Asher lebeis Hashem tzvokos, ve'al neviim leimor, ha'evke b'chodesh hachamishi. What's chodesh hachamishi? That's Av. Should we cry? Defining Tisha B'Av of a day of crying. Hinoze is fasting. Precious. Kasher osisi ze kamashonim. So now, Vayhi Dvar Hashem Tzvokos Elai, Zechariah records a Dvar Hashem as an answer to this question. Okay. Very interesting. It's not for us. Tisha B'Av is only the Rabbonon. And there's a discussion with Nevi'im, with God, about a Yom of Tisha B'Av. The Rav discussed it, but it's not for us. This is a very interesting phenomenon. Vayhi Dvar Hashem Tzvokos Elai Leimor. Emor el kol amo oretz ve'el kohanim leimor. Samtem usfoid b'chamishi u'b'shvi'i v'zeh shivim shono hatzoim tzomosni oni. So when it talks about it as a day of fasting and tzvod, a day of eulogy. A day of eulogy, a priori, has nothing to do with a tiny sibur. So in Nevi'im, we find Tisha B'Av as a day of crying and a day of eulogy, sfod. and also a fasting. We don't find this at all. It's not mentioned. It's not mentioned. We'll see. It is mentioned, not mentioned. But this is the way it was mentioned in the Nevi'im. Now, and just even more than that, the question of whether they should fast on Tisha B'Av was not, should we fast? Ha'efke! Should we cry? I mean, Tisha B'Av, the quintessence of the day, is a day of crying. Which you look at the minig in Bavel with Slichas, crying. So comes now the question is, what happened to crying? What's going on over here? So I'd like to quote to you Maseches Sofrim. I'd like to share with you the Ramban in Megillah on Chaf Aleph Mebez that calls Maseches Sofrim the following: Gemara Yerushalmis calls Maseches Sofrim as Gemara Yerushalmis, as Ki'ilu part of Talmud Yerushalmi or as Gemara Yerushalmis. Maybe historically it's better to say it's a reflection of the feeling of the Goyim in Eretz Yisrael post Yerushalmi. But the Ramban calls it Gemara Yerushalmis. So let's see how they painted the picture of Tisha B'Av. In Perek Yud Ches Maseches Sofrim, Yesh Shekorim Sefer Kinot Be'erev. There were those that read Sefer Kinot, that's Eicha, in the evening, Leil Tisha B'Av. Okay. Truth is interesting. In Rav Sadi Goyin, there's no mention of reading Kinot on Tisha B'Av. In Rav Amun Goyin, there is, okay? But that's it, okay? And some read it after Kriyas HaTorah. But listen to what happened after Kriyas HaTorah. His head is covered with ashes. Someone standing up, uvagodov mishulashim. His begodim, I guess, are unkempt. V'kerei bebechia ubiyalola bechia. They read Eicha with bechia, which is very reminiscent of this pasuk in Zechariah, ha'evke. Im yodehu l'targamoy v'kerei bebechia ubiyalola. Whining and crying. Im yodehu l'targamoy mutav. If he knows how to translate it, okay. V'im lav noisla l'mi she'yodehu l'targamoy b'tayv. And Targum, it's very interesting, on Ksuvim, a Targum. Targum, lefish, yovinu boy shara om, v'anoshim iterokas. I want everyone to understand, Eicha. She'anoshim chayovus lishmoa kriyas sefer kanoshim. Mitzah says man grom. V'chol shkein zchorim, v'chein hein chayovus v'chule. Okay. Now, skipping a little bit. V'akerei b'Tisha B'Av, oimer baruch dayin emes. He makes a bracha dayin emes. It means dayin emes one makes on the passing of one of the Shiva Krevim at the moment b'shas chimum. It means we're re-experiencing Churban. V'yesh shemanichen es ha-Torah ala karka. B'askilus shchoira, in a black, they put the Torah on the ground in some type of black sack. V'yoimim nofla teres reishenu. And then they do kriya, which is b'shas chemo. V'keirin umaspidim ha'efker and seiftin. Ka'odom shemeisei mutal lefonov. It's happening now. V'yesh meshanim mekoimon, like an ovel who goes to a different place. V'yesh yodim misafsaleim lamato. V'kulon mispalshin be'efer. Everyone is covered with ashes. Ve'enon shon lezel zeh kol ha'aylam chol hayoim. Ad she'eshlimo om ki noisehen. That's a very important word. Ki noisehen. You see in the I'm going to just quotes kinos. Okay, kinos could be Migdal HaShoshanim, which is called kinos. Okay, but when the Masech Sofrim says kinosehen, it's in the plural, in the third person plural. It's referring to each individual had kinos. So what the Yerushalmi is expressing is they actually had in Eretz Yisrael, what this Gemara Yerushalmis, Maseches Sofrim, they actually had not only the Kriya of Megillas Eicha, but there was Kinos. I didn't say I'm not clear. I know. When the Ramban quotes, it's a suffix in Tosfos when clear was Tosfos Chagiga. We all know this. You're very, you like to speculate and conclude, but the Rav used to slam us when we, okay, Beseda. So this is what we have now. I want to show you. This is not where it ends. Okay. So you see the minig of Eretz Yisrael was accepted by us and all over, okay, and the minig of Bovel of Slichas was not accepted. The Yerushalmi is a stira between Slichas, certainly the way it's interpreted. In Ozrua, there's a stira between Slichas and Avelus, and especially with the backdrop of Zechariah, that it's a day of crying and Hesped, that has become the day of Tisha B'Av by us. Now, interesting is, which I just want to talk about this. The Rambam has something like this, but it's only for special people, Hasidim, Chachomim. I'll just read you two Rambams and I'll look about it a little bit, okay? Yeah. The Rambam Perek Hey of Hilchos Taniyos, Halacha Tes and Yud Aleph. Ava Hasidim hu Rishonim, Kach hoyes midasan. What did he do on Suda Mafsekes? Erev Tisha B'Av, ho yimevin lo liodem levadoi. He was sitting by himself. Pas chareva, stale bread, bamelech, with some salt. V'shoyre b'mayim, and he dipped it in water. V'yoshev bein tanu l'kirayim, in a desolate area of the house, between the tanur and the place where they cooked. V'oichla v'sheis oleh kiton shalmayim, and he drank a pitcher of water. And it says, b'da'ago u'b'shmomoin u'b'bechia. Bechia. So the Rambam has it. There's bechia. But b'chasidim u'rishonim. The Bechia is a person who is actually witnessing the calamity. Bechia, he's crying. Ukizeh ro'oi lachachomim la'asois o kov mizeh. And this is what everyone should do if he's a chacham. U'miyomeinu lo yochalnu erev Tisha B'Av. The Ram is talking about himself. Usually the Ram doesn't discuss himself, but I assume an important issue to stress the point. Lo ochalnu erev Tisha B'Av tavshil, afilu tavshil shel adoshim, el in kein hoye b'Shabbos. He didn't eat erev Tisha B'Av. There was no tavshil. Then in Halacha Yir Aleph, the Ram says, Talmidei Chachomim ein noisen zeh lezeh sholem b'Tisha B'Av el yoshvin dovim v'nenochim ka'avelim. So there is, in the Suda Mafsekes, K'meisa Mutar Lefonov, Bechia, and there is an issue of Avelus, like an Ovel who actually experienced something on Tisha B'Av by Chacham. Now, let me explain to you, I think, what's happening over here, okay? You understand that there are two approaches of how to, is the Avelus a stira, or in what way it's a stira to the issue of a public fasting day. In Bovel, there was slichos, okay. In Eretz Yisrael, there were no slichos. There was kinos, and each one had the individual kinos, crying, kriya, mesa mutar lefonov, okay. There's a problem here, okay. How, let's start like this, okay? I was trying to research and see, is there any holiday in any culture, okay, which is a holiday of mourning, okay? So, I did my search and I check. No, I came up, different civilizations have certain holidays of mourning. But the mourning is not in a mourning of mourning in the way we understand mourning. It's they're trying to give honor to a dead individual or something like that. Or they might reenact something just to. But there's no actual mourning, okay. And the truth is, we understand that there shouldn't be. First of all, most civilizations, they're interested in stressing their good days, not their bad days. And the Jews are somewhat honest, and we had our bad days, and we're honest about it, okay? But something more than that. That's just that the day exists. But to reenact, there's a difference between reenacting something and actually feeling something. You see, on Pesach, we not only reenact, but we're supposed to feel. Okay? The question is, how is it possible? What does it mean to reenact? Okay. Now, especially on a calamity. So there are two postulates that you need in order to reenact something. The first postulate is that you look at the Jewish community throughout millennia as one whole. Okay? What the Rav used to call the covenantal community. And we're all connected and we're all part of it. Because if it's just a historical event, there's no way that we can be involved. And since we are part of it, and we are part of that historical entity called the covenantal community, it happened to us also. Okay? But we're removed from it. Thousands, you see, in Zechariah, it was only 70 years. The whole Churban was a 70-year period. So it could be, I don't know how many people were alive at that time that saw the Beis HaMikdash. You know, there might have been some or whatever it is. But everyone, their father, their grandfather, they told them, so they understood that there was a churban and understood what happened. So they could still cry. And the quintessence of the day was a efker. But as time moved on, the relation of efker to a historical event which happened, you see, even, let's just take it more told to us, okay? The Holocaust, okay? The Holocaust, okay? So, you know, in the 50s, talking about the Holocaust, the 60s, you know, talking about the Holocaust, you know, you can even ask, I think there was a poll in America, how many people think the Holocaust actually happened, how many people didn't happen, you know? Once you get generations and years and years and years out of it, the whole idea of reenactment doesn't make any sense and becomes very difficult. And it could be that in Bovel, they even though the Goyim knew the Psukim HaEfker, the Talmud Bavli was aware of all this. So, but maybe it's not Shaykh, okay? It seems so, whatever it was. In Eretz Yisrael, they continue this, and somehow it was a spashet. But the Ram tells us is this whole idea of Bechia and Avelus is only for Hasidim Rishonim and for Chachamim. What does it mean? And this, I think I mentioned once or other times, and this really works into the same idea. Remember, the Rav used to talk about this. It's the Gemara, but you know, the Rav used to what does it mean? What does it mean going to a Chacham to ask him to mispal for you? You know, if you're looking for intermediaries, it borders on Avodah Zarah. So the Rav said, and I think it's based on the fact that a Chacham is not supposed to be only in his knowledge, but he's supposed to be great in his interpersonal relationship, in the way he interacts with people. He's supposed to reach the zenith of empathy. He feels the other person's feelings. What's happening over here is the Rambam is expressing, which is the Gemara. Some of the Tanoim actually said this expression of the Chassidim Rishonim is one of the Tanoim that sat Yosef B'Shtan V'Kirayim. He can connect and re-experience the tragedy of Churban. An amazing thing, even though it's not clear to me that the masses will actually feel this, the Churban, okay? The minig is that this ha'evke and this sfoid, this idea of eulogy, has become the centerpiece, the piece of what was going on in Zechariah is maintained as the centerpiece of Tisha B'Av, and not to be changed as it was in Talmud Bavli, or as the Ram says, just for the Yechidei Skula who have empathy. And that is what Tisha B'Av is, and that's why we have Kinot. Just one more point, and that's the Rav always used to point out, we can only understand a tragedy through knowledge if it's a historical tragedy. If we see it in front of our eyes, you don't have to understand it. It's only the Chachamim who have dealt into and understood what the tragedy was who actually can begin to have this empathy. Okay. Okay. So we'll start the Kinot. Again, here even more so, most of the Rav in the many years that know, probably from 1974, at least till 1981. I probably heard through Rav Avi. I think it was 1 year they didn't say. Okay. Shavas. The Kinot starts as a sudden. Shavas means to stop. The world changes. The world changed. The world which they knew, which they saw, a Beit HaMikdash, the splendor of Yerushalayim, and almost in a split second, changed to Churban, and Churban Beit HaMikdash. I'll try to get further, because I usually, the end of the Kinot, I don't get to, so I'll try to go a little faster at the beginning, and we'll try to get through the Kinot. Shavas. Tzu many shimune ovrai. This is a very interesting phenomenon that the goy, and is expressed in the next line, Schiu Mos Hesimuni be'edrei chaveirai. They paint the Jews in very negative terms, and this is the beginning of more anti-Semitism. You know, it's even you know, in literature, the reason why anti-Semitism cannot be uprooted, because it's integrated in the literature of the Western world, certainly, and the whatever it is, and the Muslim world also. So many Shimuni ovrai, schiu moos hisimuni be'edrei chaveirai. Now, here is interesting that sometimes and many times the kinos are in the singular. Okay. Man can relate to a tragedy if it's befalling him, if he's part of it, when it's in the singular. And that's why the Rav said that there's a kina beinu basa Rabbi Shmuel, because you could talk about 1 million, 1,000, 100,000, 6 million, but it's words. You see one person in front of your eyes and you see what happened to him, then you can relate to it. Man does not relate to figures. Man relates to personal experiences. Now, Sakrisa Mishkan Mischais Devirai. This is somehow, there's a iron curtain, Sakris Sukkah, something's covering, Mishkan Mischais Devirai. And that is the place, the Devir was the Shechina. The Shechina is separated from us. Sakrisa V'huvelgu Giborai. With this covering, with this hest upon him, the Giborim will be, the Giborim will not be successful, because the Gibori Yisrael are successful only in as much as they're connected to the Rebbeinu Shalom. Sofku kaf umodu evorai, ksilo kolavirai. Clapping their hands with joy and glee at our destruction. Noflo denu b'tzur dechuya. We fall into a almost bottomless pit, and we're waiting. Eini chiksa lechazon ben brechia. It's the Gemara Makis that the nevuah of Geula is interconnected with the nevuah of Churban, and we see Churban now, and we're waiting for Geula. Al Pile Gilgol Chavuya, somehow talking about all the miracles that happened in Gilgal when they came here to Israel, well, that was the Mokkah of the Mishkan. And we're waiting for them to come again. They're not there. Now, Eini Mo'olelis, again, we're crying. Eini Mo'olelis. Bivonis Nechuyo, Osa V'nicham V'yikol HaBechiyah. But it's interesting. The Rabbeinu Shalom has not completely forsaken us. Because there's a very interesting line here. Osa, it's the third person referring to the Rabbeinu Shalom. V'nicham, he made the Beis HaMikdash. And he was mischaret. He changed his mind. He destroyed it. But the question is the destruction of the Beis HaMikdash to the end? And it says, Vayikol HaBechiyah, that he called to cry. If he's calling to cry, it means something. He's still connected even after Churban. And we hope and pray that there was a speedy Geula. Vayikol, the Rebbeinu Shalom himself is calling for Bechiyah. V'nom, and the Rebbeinu Shalom calls, Al Eile Ani Bechiyah. On this I am crying. The Rebbeinu Shalom is crying. Al Pnei Pros, Nufsu Chasideho. The Euphrates River, there was somehow a complete dispersion. Dispersed, the Hasidim were dispersed. This the Rav wasn't sure whether referring to what happened in the Golos Asaras Hashvatim, and then if it is the Golos Asaras Hashvatim, the historical frame of reference keeps on changing backwards, forwards, with no rhyme or reason. But this fits very well with two concepts. One concept of the historical continuum, the whole idea of the covenantal community, it's all one. And also with Yerushalmi, which the Rav used to quote in Tainus, that a person in a situation of Avelis loses his historical stance, doesn't remember the day. What day was it the father was nifta? What day was it mother? What day was it? What happened? Complete disoriented. And the whole historical continuity over here is completely disoriented. The pros itself, if it's referring to the Churban of after Churban, what happened is that we went to the rivers in Eretz Yisrael, because it was constantly with rain and constantly mayonos, with tehoimos, the water is very clean. Okay? There was no pollution. And the Euphrates River was very polluted. And in fact, the Medrash tells us that there were more people killed from the waters of the Euphrates River than by the Churban itself. Al Pnei Pros, Nufsu Chasideho, Palge Suf Zocho, Ke'elu Yisodeo. That's a very interesting thing. Palge Suf is Kriyas Yam Suf, where the Rebbeinu Shalom, we saw Ze Keli V'Anveyu. Hashem Imloich L'Olam Voed. We remember that, and we were expecting and hoping for the miracles of Kriyas Yam Suf. Ke'elu Yisoideho. Ke'elu means the complete excavation of the Yisoidis of the Beis HaMikdash. I'm not getting involved in Midrash to talk about it. All out of Yisoid Bo. When it happened, did it happen, which did it happen, or they wanted to do it. Okay. Pachat chet Shiloi tokaf seideho. Here, Pachat chet Shiloh. What do they want from Shiloh over here? This is Churban Beis HaMikdash. What do we want from Shiloh? Shiloh, Mr. Rav used to say that, we know about the Mokom of Churban Beis HaMikdash, where exactly Shiloh was. You can say here, you can say there, you can say whatever you like. Okay. In fact, in Tehillim, it says, Vayimos be'ola Yosef. That's what Shiloh was. There's no remnant. We don't know anything about Shiloh. We know it was somewhere in a certain vicinity, but we don't know anything. In Beis HaMikdash, it's there. What they were afraid was that what happened to Shiloh would happen to the Beis HaMikdash. There's no remnant. There's nothing. There's no hope. There's no rebuilding. Pachad. Chet Shiloh. Tokaf Seideho. So there are those that were B'tuch HaSod, the Chachom and the Nevoinim, they were overtaken by the same way that because of Chet, Shiloh was destroyed. Maybe the Beis HaMikdash was also being destroyed because of Chet. Maybe there'll be no reference and no remembrance of it. Now, here you have, as always pointed out, that when a time of Churban, worthless individuals, people who you wouldn't even talk about at a time of Churban, play historical roles. Potzu Chazire Ya'ar, wild pigs of the forest. Hayei Chasideho, where are the Chasidim? Where are you? Where are you? Place is lag. It's complete to defile the kedusha. There's nothing left. Potzu Maise area lenideho. They did in Beis Chiddushim a Maise arayes with the Titus. It's all to defile kedusha. If there's no kedusha, Klal Yisrael is nothing. Peis et Sion biodeho. Al har Sion she'onei Madonai Tzofu Aroshem Zedonai Tzomsub Benoiv La'amoid Tzoid Notzarta La'ori Madonai Tzoak Ami Bimei Ben Dinai. Okay. Ben Dinai was a zealot, and there were a lot of zealot movements in Churban, the time of Churban by Sheni. Okay. Rabbi Yochanan ben Zakkai was not part of that. That's why he asked for Yavne, in all times in Klal Yisrael, they were all zealots, okay? The question is that all zealots think that they are they're like God's gift to the world, and just as in Rabbi Yochanan ben Zakkai, we saw clearly, they did not reflect the divine reason, divine feeling, okay? But listen what happened. It doesn't talk, he's not talking Ben Dinai himself. He's talking about the period of time of Ben Dinai, not them. And what did they do? They would see the Hadin. Tzok bimei, tzok ami, my people. Klal Yisrael, ami. Bimei Ben Dinai, tzadiku Adonai. Kifiu Marisi. Okay. What does that mean? That it's Siddiq Hadin. And the first step of tshuva is Siddiq Hadin. And it's very important. As much as there's no Yud Gimel Midos on Tisha B'Av, according to our minhag, okay, but the Siddiq Hadin, and that we find in the Kinot. And here, it's a play that's this Kaddiku Hashem Kippurim Risi is in the Echo. Then we have Ato Kalim Hichbarato. And this here, it's very clear what I said before, that the worthless people play a historical role. Ato Kalim Hichbarato. Hichbarato is Lashon Kovod. Kalim, those that are worthless. Ume'edye ermuni. Kerafto boy elai v'yachmer rimuni. Korosel yoshve givon od heim zirmuni. We're interested in making allies, okay? And, so what happened is we made allies in Yoshve Givon, and they betrayed us. Korosel Yoshve Givon od heim zirmuni. They betrayed us. Kol Lashmir Barov Higrimuni, and the Arov, this is our friends. The Ishmaelim gave us, salty food, and gave us nodes, whatever it is, the Medrash, and it wasn't good for us when we didn't have anything to drink. It's again allies. Kumi avuri bohosel herimuni. Mahavai Rimuni. It's again all our allies and all our friends are selling us down the river. Now we're going to Yoshio HaMelech, who's that in Eicha in Perik Gimel Pasuk Daled Lomu Rachapenu Ateva Shamo, and also we'll see in Perik Daled that was the hesped on Yoshio and on the Melech, and there's another element over here in Kinot that the Gedola Misa Sadikim Kechum Beis HaMikdash. And as before the Sakrisa, I just like to just say it short, that the Rav used to say again and again and again and again that we're not crying about the physical structure of the Beis HaMikdash, we're crying about Siluk Shechina. Sakrisa, Siluk, as we had at the beginning. Lomo Ruach Hapeinu, Yoshio HaMelech, Latevach Shomoru, he was the archers, 300 arrows. Reiso Kikasanu Oreinu, Chomoru, Reiso Ki Omo Vochas, Bi'ivo Yoch, Gomoru. Rafta Biyad Yechesko, Linkoim, Kemoi Moru, Rei Menachidemi Goy, Omoru, Rei Adonoi, Kitzalni, Mei Chamomoru. We're completely, our whole digestive tract, we're completely, and when the person's in distress, we're completely in upheaval. Hashivenu sisi shima lagoy tseoni shifta mumois chatzera lahad kieni sifse meshoire dvir. That's the base Kodesh HaKadoshim. That's either the Leviim or the voice that came out of Kodesh the song, as the Avodas HaMelech points out, the Rav called it from the Zohar, Tikkuni Zohar, that stopped. Sifsei Meshoire Dvir Dom Lahad Iveini Shomat Zmoirois Haf Heichel Tate Shochvu Benodu Chotzos Lahavrieni Shomu Ki Nenocho Oni. Now, in general, we mentioned before, and this just to give another idea in Kinot, and then we'll move on to what we're supposed to do here. Not only is there's a historical continuum of the covenantal community, not only is the complete disorientation, we're completely disoriented in dates and time and occurrences, but Tisha B'Av is the day to cry for all all things that occurred to us throughout the millennia. So we can cry about the events of Tatnu, which from a percentage point of view was a greater calamity than the Holocaust itself. From a numerical point of view, it doesn't compare. But the whole Ashkenazic Jewish community consisted of 3 cities and were completely decimated. That's Tatnu. We'll see Kinot about Tatnu. There was, you have in the Inquisition, the whole, all one and again in the Middle Ages, whether it was the pogroms in London, whether it was the other crusades, this crusades, that crusades, whether it was the Inquisition in Spain. It was again and again the Jews were the target. Whether it was the time, especially in the time of the Black Plague. Whatever it is, the Jews survived, whether it was whether it was a genetic coincidence, a question of blood type or whatever this or that. There's a lot of theory, but it was Yad Hashem, okay? And they survived, and we didn't, so they're the targets, okay? Jews have been targets, then you understand through the period before the Holocaust and the Holocaust itself. And you understand, and you see it today more than any time, it's always the Jews, the Jews, the Jews. And the amazing thing is, that's the amazing thing. I'm personally amazed by it. The blacks, when you talk about 100 years ago, they were, less than the Jews. It was like you swept the floor with them. Okay, but now all the liberals, chas v'sholom, to say something about a black, but the Jews always remain in their place. Nothing changes. You could be liberal, you could be this and that. Jews are always the center of the target. They're always the center. Okay? And the truth is, as much as we a priori would have said they were disconnected from Churban, okay, and the ha'efker is maybe for the Chassidim Rishonim, for Chachomim, but I think going through the year that we just went through, we can appreciate what it is and where the Jews stand, and we appreciate in the same way we experience our personal churbanos over here. Everyone has a friend or knows someone who was part of this tragedy. And you could imagine the same way that Rabbi Yochanan, there were geyser tainis at his time for a certain calamity, okay? I don't know what it is, okay, or what it was, but the calamity or the possible, the issue of countries, whether it's Iran or whether it's the Hezbollah, or whatever it is, leashing, see, we, the Jews, are into chesed, think about our fellow man, okay, Here and there, we're interested in defense of the country, whatever it is. But you're talking about two elements that their whole life is just how to kill Jews. And you could have imagined that Chazal, if we wouldn't have been so fragmented, which we are, the amazing thing is that there are two principles which remain constant throughout history, okay? One, hate the Jews, okay? And two, Jewish society is fragmented, okay? And if we hadn't been so fragmented, I could imagine that all the Rabbonim, or the pseudo-Rabbonim, I'm not sure who or what they are, would have gotten together and said, this is an Esau. So, now, here in Kinot, what happens now is we're going to actually define why we think we're going to be saved, or what the issues are. Now, the Mon Chulin, inside the Aleph, tells us that the image of Yaakov Avinu, is engraved in the Kisei HaKavod. Okay. What it means is, what I've always to say, that the relationship, if Yaakov Avinu is engraved in the Kisei HaKavod, it means something very simple, that the Shechina is intertwined with Yaakov Avinu. It means the relationship between the Rabbi Chaim and Knesset Israel is eternal. Kitam, Yaakov ish tam, Chakto is engraved. It's not just a picture on it. It's part of it, engraved. Beches, that's the kisei. And it's really probably Beches, Eina kisei sholem, till with Ramolik, Beches oifanecha. Toshiv lehem gemul, ki oz chazeis ponecha. And we ask the Rabbeinu Shalom to do and to give them the vengeance. Okay? Okay. Tirdoif letzalmoin yoatse al tzfunecho titel lahavav noitseif peninecho tiko leshakram kreis komus befinecho tovo kolosam lefanecho. Now, here is taking on the next thing, is a discussion that by a goy in Zayin Umois, because we was the Ben Noach was Zayin Mitzvahs, what happens is the Rabbeinu Shem Mitzaref Machshava L'Maisa. Tovol El Tzor Asher Kilonu. It should something come to the enemy who Kilonu, who destroyed us. Didn't destroy us. They wanted to destroy us. And in Ben Noach, Mitzaref Maisa, Machshava L'Maisa. L'Mavoy Hamas B'Cheimon Nihalonu. This is the Aseres HaShvatim, again, going back and forth between various kufas. Ad lachlach, here it is, ad lachlach, v'chovo higlonu, zokeinu bochu, uvesuro kivolonu, rom habeit, no amcho kulonu. Here, amcho kulonu. Okay? If we all, and I love used to talk about this, but in different wise, different times, amchu kulonu, okay? The fragmentation of the Jewish community is denial of amchu kulonu. Everyone, they say in Yiddish, each person feels he belongs to the group, what they call in Yiddish, the Besra Menschim. I'm the creme de la creme, okay? And everyone else is just nothing, the denial of this concept is the tragedy of Jews. What goes on outside, we can't control. But we'd expect it, we control what goes on inside. Rom, habetno, amcho kulonu. Amcho kulonu. I don't know if there are many strands in Jewish society that could make the statement and actually believe it of Amchu Kulonu. And that I think is very sad. And that's something to cry about. Zcho Adonai mehoy olonu.
We can go back to what you Rishonim, this is a breakdown of leadership also, and therefore they sit
Could
where
be.
they sit and do what they want.
Can be, I don't know, it could be, but whatever it is, I think Jews are fragmented. You know, any synagogue you'll see how fragmented it is. I don't know, unless you say it's leadership in the synagogue, you know, you can take any part of society, it's fragmented. Okay, Eicha. Now the word Eicha is, the Rav used to say that when there's a tragedy, a personal tragedy, a person doesn't ask why. He says, Atzutom Pol Kol Dorach Mishpot, Baruch Atah Hashem Elokeinu Melech Haolam Dayan Emes and Kriya and Avelus. Here we see from the Novi Yirmiyah, we were allowed to ask why. And the why is Ayeko, Eiko. We'll see Eiko. We'll see all different expressions of the question. But on a communal tragedy, on a cosmic, almost, it's a cosmic tragedy, we're allowed to ask why. Eicho atzto biapecho. And here we're going back to the relationship between the Rebbeinu Shem and the Avos, and this is the bris ben habesorim. Now, the bris ben habesorim, it says, v'gam l'rabos shibu dala malchis, v'gam es hagoya she'avodu don anochi. So there's a haftocha that the Rebbeinu should be done the dala malchis. Okay, and the Rav used to say over from Rabbi Chaim, and you see it basically in many places, not Sefer Mitzvahs and other places, that this din is almost, it borders on vengeance. That the Boile Sholem is not done as a objective arbiter, as an objective judge, but as a prosecuting attorney. And the Boile Sholem comes and takes out his vengeance for us. Okay? So what happened is, let's look at this. Eicho atzto biapecho, which is through vengeance, okay? La'abed biad adoimim, that's the Romans, okay? Esav, emunecho, who's emunecho? That's Klal Yisrael. So you are destroying Klal Yisrael with vengeance, okay? And in the bris ben habesorim, it should have been just the opposite. V'lo zacharto bris ben habesorim asher beiralto libchunecho, that you gave to your chosen people, and you cut this covenant with your chosen people. Uv'chein bitinu zcharinoi mehoy elonu. And we ask Eicha, because it is a question, Eicha, how could it be? It's just the opposite of what should be. Eicho go'arto begaroisecho. Also here, vengeance. Ga'aro. Legalus biad geim gulecho. V'lo izocharta deligas dilug derech asher dilagta lidgolecho. What happened in the Degolim and the Shechina that was there, and we're completely, it's a vacuum, there's no Shechina. V'chein dibarnu. Eicho hagto behegyonecho la'adef biyad holim hamonecho v'lo yizocharto viud vesek veses, the specific rendezvous time that the Beit HaKnesset Yisrael, whether it's the rendezvous with Moshe Rabbeinu in the Oil Moed, or it's the rendezvous the Beit Klal Yisrael in the Gimel Regolim. But we were once closer. We had a rendezvous. Everyone had the individual rendezvous with the Beit Sholem. Asher v'yata l'viudecho v'chein v'koinenu. The Kinot is, we remember this rendezvous We don't have it anymore, and we cry about it. Eicho zonachto bezamecho. Again, za'am. L'zalzel biyad zorim zivulecho. A complete destruction, desecration of zivulecho is your intimate chamber. Beis Kodesh HaKadoshim. Vo zachalto chitun chukei chorev. At Har Sinai, there was a chasana between the Rebbeinu Shem and Klal Yisrael. Chitun chukei chorev asher chochakta lechamulecho v'chein chivinu. Eicho torachto b'tochecho litrof b'yad tmeim tloecho tmeim v'lo yizochalto yikar yedidus yoshe asher yichalto liyodecho v'chein yolalnu. Torah is the that which was miyayit to us, and he gave it to us, and that is our relationship with the Rebbeinu Shem. We don't have it. Achusi kalo, we're with the chitun. We don't have anything anymore. Eicho kivanta bekasecho levalo is biat kfirim kalmecho is the Beis Hamikdash is the Kelim v'Kodesh Baruch Hu. V'lo yizochalto liznoyach lo liznoyach le'olam asher limat l'kecho v'chein lahagnu. Eicho milalto moasecho l'mchois biad moinim minasecho v'lo yizochalto nesias noitzas nesher asher nososa l'nsuecho mint kenesher yoekino agoizol v'yuachef uv'chein nohinu. Eichos sakto b'sarecho v'saga biad seafim, that's Eidei Sheker, Sa'adecho. V'lo yizochalto oiz adei adoyim asher itarta lavodecho. That is the Tefillin Shalosh. V'chein oninu. Eicho patzlo b'fachtecho lefage biad politzim ploecho v'lo yizochalto tzalus svi tzadik asher tzafanta l'tzvecho. This is the obvious point that we don't know what the sweet tzaddik, because it was a taina that they didn't say shira, that the king should have said shira, and he didn't. And the Eretz said, see, we don't know what was the chalta, we don't know what the salas sweet tzaddik is. Asher tzafanta litzvoecho v'chein. It's the most in Hedron Sadi Dalit. V'chein tzoaknu. Eicho korosa b'kriyasecho lahaknois is liknois, means lahaknois biad common kriyecho v'lo yizochalto regesh regef. We were saying that all the Malachi Ashoris shishim riboy, a Malachi Ashoris came to see the Matan Torah asher otzisa l'reyecho v'chein v'ganenu. Eicho sha'afto b'shafecho Lishlois biyad shoidim shlemechot sodim fugitives. Lo zachalto toikef taltale toya. He's a Talmud Chacham. It's a medrash eicho. It's referring to Talmud Chacham. Taltale soya asher tikanta l'smimecho v'chein tananu. To'ananu lishboich d'moyois kamayim alma. Alme bayoim zeh nishbinu b'mayim the two kochubonos zocher b'yosef b'shalvo yeshevas v'Yerushalayim. This also is very important. We can only appreciate Churban if we know what Yerushalayim was b'binyana. So you can only appreciate Churban b'zochri b'yosef b'shalvo yeshevas v'Yerushalayim. Waganti v'ato a'ade ad chug shamayim. Here is very important that Churban is a cosmic tragedy. Not only Klal Yisrael, the covenantal community, is crying, but nature, the cosmos, are crying. Because the world the universe, with Shechina present or without Shechina present, is a different universe. And therefore it says, A'adeh, at chuk shamayim, I'm going to fly up to the heavens themselves and cry. A'aleh, I'm going to curse iti shamayim. O yoim, I'm going to curse the day that the Beis HaMikdash was destroyed twice. Es oinein miyitain voishi mayim. Avchin bivchi yelel midbo. The cause of the cause of Churban was the bechi, and that night by the Meraglim, and that in fact, according to is the Kriyas HaTorah, according to the Gemara on Tisha B'Av, because that's the cause, that bechi, that quiet, that bechi on that night, and the Gzeira was to have a Yom Bechi, ha'efke. Efchano leil mileil midbo midbo. Avake iti olas midbo. I'm going to cry. The korbanos themselves, olas midbo, is going to cry together with me. Eshag mi yitneni ma midbo. Molon ochin, that's what Yirmiyah said. Edga, Egdva, or Edga. And Venoshel Kuvnoikef Zayis, Agore iti Korbanei Bayis. Here, the Rav said that the same way we find on Pesach in the reenactment is to get the next generation involved to experience the Geula on Pesach. In Churban also, we get the whole house involved to explain the greatness of what Yerushalayim was and what it is now. And that's what it says. Agore iti kol b'nei bayis. Egoim sheyoimar bal habayis. Aroshes mi yitnenu shomi v'shayis. That's what he wrote to build the Beis HaMikdash, shomi v'shayis. Adve b'chol leiv lam sieu. We read in the Kriyas HaTorah today that there's avtocha that ki sidrishenu b'chol levov b'chol nafshecha v'kashtem mishom Hashem elkecha, and you'll seek God. But if you seek God with all your heart and really seriously, you'll find Him. Adve b'chol leiv laham sieu. I'm trying my best. Eida o milin bom lam sieu. I'm trying to find the milim, to find God. Edag ayei roye v'loyem say. I'm looking. Where's God? Akoinen miyitein yodati v'amseu. We're looking for Asoros Hashchina. We don't find it. Ehofcho v'eshapcho ka'ifan k'milai. Ege ponim b'fonim l'sanus amolai. Oahu cheres v'sahar milagia l'mulai. Etzrach miyitein efo v'kosvun milai. Now, Orach mishpatei goin ve'eli. The plight of the Jew in Golus is kiyum mitzvahs only through genevas das. They hid the bikurim and with everything, and oirach mishpatei goin ve'eli. That's the way they did mitzvahs. Odia bevitzi umali umulu mazolos bekori mi'ilai. With the kriyas of the me'il, the lav of karei me'il of the besa of the big day kohen gadol, the kriyas of me'il, the mazolos were crying, the cosmic tragedy. Efo mi'itein shomeili ezoreko hufro hoavioino ezkoro ki oyisi mechutano. I once was married to Rabbi Shalom, Ezir Pelogim kivrecho huel yoino ego miitein li eve kayoino och nifsha mikiyes oiz elzo och ubeli mayim biaflatzo achaz kamois Lixo violois livso osicha mi yovilenu ir motzo Eta ole apadeni batsalmoves. I'm going to put my palace in a graveyard. Batsalmoves. Or tusa ve'eshkevo at chatzamoves. I'm in despair. I'm in despair. Etofel im hamachakim lamoves. I'm so melancholy that I feel there's no hope. All I'm doing is waiting for death. However, this is the approach at the time of Churban. Degradation of human life, despair. This is a wrong approach in Yadus. And the proper approach is what the transition now from despair to hope. Eyulosi liezrosi, tarti chazais. Ayumosi b'chol shona. Oimeris he hashana zeis. This is the last year. The Rav is told by the minute to put away the Kinot that it's next year is going to be no more Tisha B'Av. You may say sasim v'simcha. Ayad elako ki muda zeis. Im loy ki yod adin oy osa zeis. Now again, tzilik adin. You're allowed to ask Eicha, but it has to end with Tzilik Adin. Ekof l'cho roishi. Roish adinoi cheli. Echa l'cho berach l'chatel machli. Ach tircho b'shir mishirei mecholi. Achave miyitencho ki ochli. Al tishkach tzakas Ariel, that's the Mizbeach. Elov Lego Yehuda Yisrael. It's the center. It's that which pulls together and unites Knesset Yisrael in unison. Alfei Shinon Asher Mosar El Leimo Mitein Mitzion Yeshuas Yisrael. The Tshuva of Makodesh Baruch Hu, to all the questions of where we are with all our calamities. The Rebbeinu Hashem says, Yisrael, me'eis b'drochai lo yhalochu azavuni. When Knesset Yisrael did not walk anymore in the ways of God, they left God. And since they left the Rebbeinu Hashem, the Rebbeinu Hashem says, v'azavtim ufonai mehem nefru. And the Rebbeinu Hashem says, he turns his face away from them. Uganti, Vilalti, Umei Velibi Nishposu, Echo Tifalti Merashoisai, Ishlicho. And this, again, was the Mazolos, the cosmic tragedy. Let's just do the beginning. I just want to do the first stanza of the next one. So I want to try to get through. Eicho tifalti merashoisai yishlicho. The tifalti, eicho is pushed. It's logically, it's impossible to explain. I don't understand this. It don't make no sense. Excuse the double negative. How is it possible that tifalti merashoisai, the Beis HaMikdash was thrown away. Ukinege kisei hakovod selem emilichu, and the Beis HaMikdash Shomayla is kinege kisei hakovod, is kisei hakovod, which is kinege Beis HaMikdash Shomato, and they will put it selem in that mokim. B'chali tanai shechoizei nimlochu. V'gam v'nom im b'chokosai tilechu. That was the b'chokosai that the Rebbeinu is going to be with us. And what happened? Mikdash is destroyed, there's a tzelem, Keneged Kisei HaKovod. Okay, let's now... Let's do this one and that one. Okay. Here. I will skip this. Okay. Yeah. What's it? Yeah, let's do this. Let's skip that. Yeah, let's do this one. This is a Kinot. It's Yud Aleph by me. I'm not sure what it is. Eicho. The hesped on of Yirmiyahu on Yoshua Melech. And what it means is Gedolas Beis Sadiq and Gechum Beis Hamikdash. Vayikrein Yirmiyahu al Yoshiyahu Eicho Eli Koinenu Me'elov Ben Shmona Shono Heichel Lidrosh Me'elov. He, on his own, reached the Rebbeinu Shalom at the age of 8. B'nei Chom B'Avrom Chonu Olov V'loi Huskaloi Sigui Mifolov. He did great deeds, and his deeds were not remembered when they were shooting at him with the arrows. Gam B'chol Malchei Yisrael Asher Komu Ligdo. All the Malachim before, they came to somehow put together Yahadus in Knesset Yisrael, Komu Ligdo, to make a fence. V'leikom komohu mimois Avigdor, and there was no one like him from the time of Moshe Rabbeinu. Moshe's Avigdor. Dovak boy hate leitzonei ador asher komu achra hadeles lizdo. There was incandescent avodah zarah behind doors, and how are we supposed to know about it? But the Melech is responsible. It's an amazing thing. The Melech is responsible for everything. Vayigdal ovoin veheshiv yomin. Dovak boy chet leitzonei ador leitzonis asher komu achar hadelis lizdor. Over there was achar hadelis. Hoichlim zera shicho. That's the Nile, the Egyptians, the Nile. It's Yoshio. Kismo hatev. Pichmo mishcho. Vayigdal. Ovoin veheshiv. And as the Ovoin increased, veheshiv yomin ocho. It's a pasuk in Shirashim. Voloshoch yodo min acho. And the Shekhinah is left. Zako Amorov Kinom Dos Lohokim. He wanted to, he said, it is, Asher Lohokim is Divrei Amila Hokim, and Yoshua said it on himself, and he's the one that we make him Das, as it says in the Klolos, and he wanted to do it. Zako Amorov Kinom Dos Lohokim, Bitzem Wasoi, Bi'ori asher lo yokim, oko asher lokim divrei Torah zois. He did clear, because it says he has to do it. He has to be making the Torah. Choshach to'oroi, kinotzu v'choikim, bevetza moasei dos v'chukim, toivim reim, Niklu kisholchi maloch the shliach mali v'loch hatayoim l'soloch. Before the fight between Yoshio and Mitzrayim, they asked, let us go through. Yidei amoretz dom kemoloch teonish bevitzi es pinei filoch kilo hamonai leches maram narayim. Just let us go to Ram Narayim. Use you as a passageway. Leman loisav cherev kolshu be'Ephraim. He learned Yoshio there was an isa of cherev, even cherev shesholim. For Shama lachizel Yirmiyahu, who said, Lo shuv achorayim, and let a cheresh shalom go through. Ki gzeira nigzro l'sachsech Mitzrayim b'Mitzrayim, and this is going to complete destruction of Klal Yisrael. And Yoshua is going to be killed. Mechatois tiros mezuzos. That's the Avodah Zarah clandestine behind the mezuzos. Chazoin an soisai. That's Yirmiyahu hechelu levazois. They were mevaze Yirmiyahu Hamelech. They were mevaze Neviim. No anomim lechuma lahavzois v'lo hesiv ponov v'softu alzois. Su heidu ad lo shia v'yimanu su umot yisoid yeshia p'nei korov kikorev v'lo also lo yitiya v'yoru yayorim l'melech Yeshua. They shot arrow after arrow. Odenu oitzei meinov. He's closing his eyes. Begevyoy no chatzim mo chatzim chetz achachetz morim v'lo chatzim sodunu v'samunu kimato l'chaitzim. He was target practice. Vayizuku bo shloish meos chitzim 300 arrows. Kalim. This is not worthless. This is people who were very fast and wanted to understand. Hitu achorov ezoin moitzofiu. There were those who ran to listen to what Yoshio is saying his last words. Fiad mitzui nefesh ma'isov hefiu. Ruach sfosov hifso mipihu. They heard coming out of his mouth the following sentence. Tzadiku adonoi ki morisi fihu. See the kadin. Sisi noif ki kine v'zam. L'shalim shoinom ba'avoin bitzom. Tom kesem atoiv. Who is that's Yoshio, the kesem atoiv. Amzo b'fishom. V'yikoinein olov kol echo yuam, which is the fourth perek in Echo, which is the hesped on Yoshua Melech of Yirmiyahu. Tom b'mikre echot kois Megiddo lishtois. B'moed shnas hashmita motzoi shmita kigo vayakel le'asois. When he has hakel, tolo b'esrim u'shtayim me'arois shosois. Since there was a stay of execution of 22 years because Yirmiyahu Melech was maspid. Yirmiyahu Novi was maspid Yoshio HaMelech with the 22, with the whole alphabet, 22 osios. Ki softu loy echo bi'esrim u'shtayim osios, with the 22 osios. Osios kinois levota mecholi, eis bi shochachti mecholali, zamoisi ki lo'ad yahili, washata nosati v'nutash oli. Okay. Now, here is a Kinot about the history of the Beis HaMikdash. It started, we'll see, it started before Bereshis. Oli asher to'afto ad loy Bereshis im kisei chovo l'tzorfoi. Even before Bereshis, in the original divine plan of creation, there was a plan to mitzaref the world with the kisei HaKovod. Or this oil, whatever this oil is, before the creation of the world, the Rebbeinu Shalom had in mind that the kisei HaKovod should mitzuref to this oil, l'tzorfoi. Loma lo netzach shudad biyad shoidedin, and now you're constantly in the hands of fugitives and treasure hunters, or those that are ransackers. Shoidedim, biyad shoidedin, v'niyesa kuroye biotyo. You are like a veiled, you are unveiled, that you're not seen. The Shechina is not visible. V'ra'ashto, v'aganto, v'ato ma'alifoi. Oholi. Now the second one. The first was before Ma'aseh Bereishis, and the second one is with the ovois. Oholi, because the oil of the ovois itself was the Beis HaMikdash. An oil moyed. Oholi asher komamto leison the oilam, the ovois. Becherdas mi eifo. Lomo di cherdav of Yitzchak Avinu mi eifo tzot zayid. Lomo lo netzach tzumas biyad zorim yesach etzipo boidet al gag mar tzereach. It's like we're a bird that's just going completely in isolation. Now, the oil of Har Sinai, as the Ramban says, that the Shechina of Har Sinai was the Mikdash. Oholi asher patzto lamanoi betzir v'ato amoid imodi. When Baruch Hashem told Moshe Rabbeinu, stand over here. Lomo lenetzach uro biyad oivdei keichovim v'niyeso kisoinei v'tzor. Vaye oini Moshe po. Oli asher ni nochiso ba'ananei hoid the anani akovod l'zeis asher yeshno foi v'enu foi. That's Matan Torah. Lo lo netzach moes biad moirdim v'niyesek gibo lo yuchal lo ishia gibo that can't do anything. Ma l'chofoi umi l'chofoi. Now, that is connected based Kodesh HaKadoshim. Oli asher kivanto mul mechoin shiftech l'shiftecho l'chofich l'chupoi. That the base of Migdal HaShoshanim is connected based on the Shomato, the Kisei HaKovod. Lomo lenetzach yu biyad yehirim v'niyesa ketos becholo v'ein oid novi. There's no novi, there's no shechina v'nam ta'ein oid. Oli asher chonis meyoz v'sov mipo. There are many different levels of Chiddushim based on religion, many different chambers. Kisov, Besov, Mipo, Uipoi, Lomo Lenetzach, Zunach, Biad Zorim, Minyeso, Kivosik Yoitze, Chutzo, Voloi Ovar Poi. Chalukas Eretz Yisrael, V'suum V'tumim. Oli Asher Eichanto, Lahashlich Boi, Lefonecho, Goyro Po. Lomo lenetzach ducha biyad domim v'niyesor keger bo'oretz v'namto ki lo nosoriv ad poi boye poi. So the Shechina itself was mekadesh in Mechalek Eretz Yisrael. She should have expressed the whole Eretz Yisrael should constantly express Shechina, and the Rebbeinu Shalom feels like a stranger in Eretz Yisrael. Oli asher ba'avoin bitzi. Chet is Chochuben. Choshku Kochve Nishpo. It's a cosmic event. The Kochve Kochovim became dark. Lomo Netzach Upal Biad Umois V'niyesek Oirach Bamoloin V'oid Mi L'chofoy Ocho V'kedem Mipo L'chol Do V'do Noida Kitzpo V'chupoy Al Me Mikol Oim Mishos Olai V'kapoy Zeis Balil Kipid Chokuk Kachapoy. V'peisi betucho ki rega b'yapoy v'yad ato eicho yoy b'yapo. Let's skip again. Okay, here, Nevuzaden, coming into the Beis HaMikdash. That's Tez Zayin. Zechor asher oso os or so is Titus. Bifnim Sholav Charboy Uvo Lifnei V'Lifnim. He took out his sword and came Lifnei V'Lifnim. Nachlaseinu Bies Kitime Lechem Aponim. He was Metamin Lechem Aponim. V'gide Poreches Balas Shteifonim. He cut the Poreches. Yisoimim Giel B'Mogain Me'odom Vayemoide Kav Bimare Adamdom. He had put a red circle around him. Meimeno Dolach V'Hishkir At Chitzov Midom Kiyotzim in Abayis V'Chalbo Meleidom. And he came out. The sword was full of blood. Kaviocho, that he was successful. Al Agoisei Havois Gever V'Noto El Yodoi Lemuloi Legaber Mitzrayim V'Choloim Im Borgovar. All other nations were not successful against God, Mitzrayim and V'Chulei. Ani B'Sorchi Vuyoi Oretz Elov B'Tzavo. The question is, what happened over here? This is Titus talking, or we're changing the subject. The Rav suggested maybe we're talking about the Jews themselves. In contrast with Titus's wants, the Jew proclaims, "I will be full of pride." The Jewish spiritual identity is invincible and will defeat in the long run. Avoseinu zora bichnisu bachurav ochlo eish. Nodav aviu, when they brought in a zora, the Rabbi Shalom took them as korbanos. V'zeh Titus, we're contrasting Nodav Avihu to Titus. V'zeh zoyna tzoyo hichnis v'loy nichva b'eish. They did a sin which was you need a microscope in order to see it. And here he brings a zoyin into Beis Kodesh HaKadoshim, and nothing happens. V'zeh zoyna tzoyo hichnis v'loy nichva b'eish. Avodim chitu b'soichoy labas eish v'almo v'almeh beveis eish mimorom sholach eish b'nafshenu tovanu botziu klei shores. He took out the klei shores v'shomam b'oni shayit bom lahashores. He put them in a boat, a ship, to take them off to Rome. Oreinu nomak kihishkim mishores. When they got up the next morning to do, they v'loy motza tishim ushloisha klishos, the 93 klishos, they didn't find them because they were taken away to Rome. And it's just really poetical because he wasn't getting up in the morning to do avodah after the churban. You understand? It was just noshim kishoru kivo oritz bekalka habayis. No alov hechritz. Sorim luposu bevoy poritz. Beveis kodesh hakadoshim sachanosoi hishritz. So the mice is he was wearing shoes. You know, he got to shoes abayis. They expected something to happen. Bachurim bebachutz sogu mechuzokim. Bachurim, they thought, wow, Mechubed, this guy's going to be, it's going to be all over with him. V'tol ki yuzak b'shishim ribo mazikim. They thought he'll be injured by 600,000 malochim, mazikim. Zikanim, but the Zikanim who knew better. Nivasu kihir shuhu. When they saw that he was able to come in, at this point, they realized that it's all over. And they were in trepidation. Mischoki machazikim. Asois v'tzoynoi who also bought him. So they looked at it not as but an expression of the divine will that he's coming in and doing this. And the Beit HaKnesset has tied himself up. Also bought him bezikim. Shovas seitain vayovoi admoin vaysabev chaymo vayaves hamoin noflo evro alnine pizza lo v'luz v'almoin ad ki nota nutash midok almoin al pesach harabayis heichelovoi biad abo roshei tafsov lachiva. There were 4 camps on each side. Al tzar ma'arovi lezeche hischid boy, but the ma'arovi was left a little bit. V'tzog achar kosleinu v'loi rov rivoy. Okay. And the Beit HaShoshanim held this wall, and he held himself back. He wasn't rov rivoy. Ato kotzavto v'yusheiso lefanois yolodim asher ein bohem kol mu'um mishom lehafnois lo morog shugoyim v'lo shitoel aminchat pnois v'shilchom be'eretz utz b'sholos sfinois. This they sent these the young children or maidens, whatever, to Rome for at the house, what they used to call the house of ill fame. Hashivenu shivanu shivnu shivu kivohu b'nivchei yom. They committed suicide. V'shitfu atzmom yachad limpol b'yam. In order not to have the arayis and the defilement, they committed suicide. Shivas ishbochois sheyoldu shoyru ka'al yom. They were singing shius nishbochos to the Beit HaShoshanim, as we sang at Kriyas Yamsuf. Ki olecho horagnu b'mesulas yom, because we are being killed for the divine sake. There shouldn't be chil Hashem with our arayis with us. Ki sohim izbo ad nafshom kol zeis boasna. Shchachnucho chil mimamoshon tikvosom nosnu lemeshiv miboshon ubas kol nishmo ulolom ishain. Okay. Now, okay. Now, I just want to read just a line here in at the end of Yud Zayin. They're talking about how is it possible tochal noshim piryom ole tapuchim. What's happening to us? What's happening to us? What's happening to us? Okay. Is it shkafta bench? Okay. Benois malochim, mishubochim, all different tilafta besulois, babachuim, betzimom, betzichim. So it says like this: V'ruach hakodesh lumulon marim. The Rebbeinu Shalom answers. The Ruach HaKodesh answers. Hoi al kol shchenai horoim. My evil friends. Shchenai Horoim. Ma shehik ro'om modim. What happened to them they're talking about. The ace asher osu lo modim. They don't say what they did. Im tochalno noshim pilyo mashmiim. V'im yehoreg b'mikdash Adonai kayim v'novi lo mashmiim. They don't talk about what they did. They killed a Zechariah, the Kohen Novi. Now, we're allowed to ask, but we have to end with Tziduk Adin. So let's ask and we'll see what Tziduk Adin is fast. Okay. V'yato malto Yutches. V'yato malto Heitev imoch V'flinu ani v'amoch V'lomo b'nei Belial Hu Chillu Shimcho V'lishofachto aleim Zamoch. Okay? Eicho. We're asking like Ato Gidalto V'amamto Bonim Lohonek V'kasher Yisro Hoim in Esayonek V'lomo Doidonim Dotzu Lezanek V'aye Guoisav L'chanek. Where are we? Ato inakto Dvash Misela V'toitzi Noizle Misela V'lomo Sheiftehem Nishmetu Bidei Sela V'leihem Nuptzu Nupotu Ela Sela Ato Zonachto Vatimas Bal Goy Lokachas goy mikerev goy v'lo mochosh you v'ola al alzi goy. You took us from one goy to another. Now you're letting us being destroyed by another goy. And let us be destroyed. Ati teisa shishim ushmonim lohavi goy shoyme amunim v'lo yozmu moavim ve'amoinim liam. Zo kechovim bakumoinim ato koinanto l'sheves hoidecho hoi har ze konsi mincho liyodecho lomo liyocho hishavto yomin hoidecho matenabel kisech hoidecho. There's a nibul of the kisei HaKovod. Ato mo marinoi v'rishon koinanto moroi m'rishon v'lomo nietz rosho befer v'loshoin ad ki noga tzo b'yitz b'ishoin. Ato sasto l'toiv olei moi b'siach tiviei moi v'sidei moi tiviei moi v'sitei moi oy v'lomo oritz cheref v'yom Elohei mo asher yochal chilz v'chemo, which is Hakovis of the Zohar. Ato foralto b'yoscho yom v'tosech b'delosayim yom v'lo tzalalti ad nivche yom v'yigdal shivche yom. Ato kodesh yoshev tilos yikodoshim b'soid yishishim hamekudoshim v'lomo rogshu goyim am kedeshim v'eshimu beis kodesh hakadoshim. Ato Shema Eloheinu ki oyinu cherpo v'sukhseich nisrofo v'lomo tevala nachlas chupot tasmir trufo leinu trufo. Now tzaddik Ato tzaddik hakol abo l'chol eno etzloko v'natzdikoch b'chibo, and it's b'chibo with tremendous endearment. V'lomo nohinu v'lono adibo ki kol zeis bosnu b'chayvo atzutom polo kechol derachol mishpot l'chol eno etzloko b'is asher hifleiso me'oz v'yad ato v'lono b'osh taponim. Now we're saying vidoy v'lono b'osh taponim b'v'chino asher nitzrafnu b'oisonu tiavto. L'chodinu etzloko b'goy mikerev goy l'kachas b'masois v'lono b'osh taponim בדויפי אשר נמסור בנו כמעשה מעשיס. לכן הצדוקו בהולכו אלוהים לפתויס אלוהי לא ליום, ולא נבוש הפונים וימו על ים בים סוף גוי באלוהוב. פסל מיכו בפוש ובשום. לכן הצדוקו בזכו ויאתם עדי ואני אלוהים. ולא נבוש הפונים בחרפנו אדינוי בסין קום עשה לנו אלוהים אגו. לכן הצדוקו בטעם שהתאמתו בצחבי זבש ולנו בוש הפונים ביום הקרבנו לפונב סולס בשם לדבש תקובס עבודה זרה עגל. לכן הצדוקו בחילקו מון ובאר ויעמו לעונון אוי ולא נבוש הפונים בלחם הקלוקל אביסנו בעוליהם ברוגנון. That's what they did. They were mislearning on the mon. לכן הצדוקו במדבר לא יחסנו דובו ולא נבוש הפונים בניעצויס לובון בחצרס די זהב במדבר. This is the beginning of Sefer Dvarim. It means that Churban is the culmination of Chet from the Deires. One Chet, another Chet, another Chet. It's talking about different historical calamity. It's Chatoim. And then, boom. L'chari noet tzloko, b'sichon v'yoig, v'chom amlochos, kanoan, v'lon b'yish aponim, b'yochon, asher mo'al, b'cherem, b'li, mitzoi, ma'an, for no reason. L'chari noet tzloko, b'foil, asher po'alta, b'albo, also, moishim. That's all the shoftim, 14 judges. V'lonu, b'yish aponim, b'tzelem micho, kivoi, anachnu, b'foishim. Chon etztoko, bekinas shiloi, v'noi v'givon v'esalomim, v'lonu b'yisaponim, b'resha shenim sabonu, k'shechovu, uvom onu nichlomim. Lo nochor enu etztoko, b'shnei chobonos shechovu, b'vitzenu, v'onu kayomim, v'lonu b'yisaponim, b'shuvenu elecho, b'chol lev, shetoshuv eleinu b'rachamim. Because if we go b'chol moed, b'chol lev, it's mechay the shini should come back. L'chol enu etztoko, v'seisha meyo ishono, shehoyis l'sino kavusho milishoma, v'lonu b'yisaponim, Besova ish chamudois hatel ay oznecho ushmo. Okay. Now we'll skip to Chaf Aleph. Now here's Azli Levonon. This is Gegorben is Shkulish Mises Sadikin Kachum Beis Elokeinu. This was after Churban Beitar began religious persecution because the Romans realized that the backbone, the strength of Knesset Yisrael is the Tanoim, the Gedolei Ador, the Asuri Malchus. And then they went straight after them. Now, we compare them, they are the cohesive factor. They thought that the Churban Abayis, the bias is the, what is the cohesive factor of Eretz Yisrael? The Chachmei HaMesorah. Arze halavonon adire hatero. Baalei Treisi b'Mishnah v'Gemara. They know the whole Mesorah. Mishnah, Talmud. Giborei Choyach Amoleo B'Torah. But they're Amol Teir and Tahara. Amoleo B'Torah. Domam Nishpach V'Noshiso Gvura. They're spilling the blood. It spews, they expand. You see their gevura. Noshel gevura. Hinam kedoshei haruge malchus asora. The Tzasu Haruge Malchus. V'aleila ani boichio v'einei nigro. Here's something I want to just mention. It's a very important point. In Avelus Chadosha, when one confronts the Petira, a father or mother, it's an Avelus which doesn't have to be taught to us. It's a natural crying. In fact, the Rav said, you'd see in Rambam, maybe it's Perek Gimel of the Rosavel, that you could claim that crying in Avelus is only a heter. There's no mitzvah to cry. It's a natural phenomenon. Man, a child who has been close to their parents decades and decades and decades. The parent brought them up, brought them through childhood, brought them through adulthood, was always there to buttress them if they needed some support. You don't need to be taught to cry. It's a natural thing. The Gimel Yom B'Bchi in Avelus, the Rav said, is a cap. You're not allowed to misabel Yosem Midai. In Avelus Yishana, and of something which occurred millennia ago, we have no emotional tie to it. You have to be taught in order to cry. And only a person who's reached the zenith of empathy can actually cry. And here, it is an amazing thing. Not only do we cry for the Beis HaMikdash, ha'evke, we cry for the Misa of these tzaddikim, even though they were eras ago. And we're crying, not only, there's another difference between Avelus Yishana, that's the Avelus of Tisha B'Av, which is old, and Avelus Chadosha, of mother and father, or the Zayin, rest of the Zayin Kroivim. Avelus Chadosha, there's a cap. You're not allowed to misabel Yosem Midai, because kachol minik sho'olam, people die. The cosmic tragedy of Churban, it's not a natural phenomenon. It's an expression of chet. And even though in Avelus Yishana, Chadosha, you're not allowed to misabel Yosem Midai, and Avelus Chadosha, you're not allowed to misabel Yosem Midai, and Avelus Yishana, the more you cry, the better it is. In fact, the Kinot at the end, Rav used to point out, we're finishing the Kinot, and it's a call to continue to cry, and to cry, and to cry, and to cry. And that is the truth of Haigain, which you used to point out, when the Anshe Mitzrayim, they went with shoes, Tisha B'Av in the afternoon, because they used to say Miksayom Kakule. So first of Haigain points out that Yimuchuy B'Torah is Tainus, and there's no Miksayom in a Tainus. And then he says, even in terms of Avelus, really should have had more than one day. It should have been 2 days, it should have been more than one day, it should have been many days. So the whole klal of Emes Abel Yotz Midai doesn't exist by Avelus Yishana. And here we're able to cry for all different calamities, for the Asur Hugi Malchus, Yoshio HaMelech, Chum Bais Rishon Bais Sheni, the Crusades, and all Beinu Bas Rabbi Shmuel, the Hariga of Zechariah Kohen Gadol V'Novi, one event after the next, and we understand ourselves. It's the Inquisition, the Holocaust, the Black Plague, and what we're going through today after the attack on Simchas Torah. It's one after the next of Churban, and we constantly crying, and we're allowed to cry, and that's the mitzvah of Tisha B'Av, ha'evke. So it says, "V'al eila ani boichia, v'eini nigro." I'm crying, and my eyes are constantly shedding tears. They're dripping and dripping. Zois bezochri ezak b'mora. When I remember it, I scream, bitter screams. Hemdas Yisrael, Klei HaKodesh, Neze v'Atorah. Klei HaKodesh like a Kli Mekadesh Acherim. That is the greatness of the Gedolei Yisrael, that they're almost like Tefeach Hamnas Tfiach. They exude Kedusha and the Mekadesh Acherim. Chemdas Yisrael, Klei HaKodesh, Neze v'Atorah. Tahurei Leiv, Kedoshim, Mesu b'Misa Chamura, they had a terrible death. Yadu Goyro, Mirishon Lacherev, Berura, B'Nefol Goyro. Okay, and I remember, Rav Gusman Zichron Levoch, I said this, I remember him reciting and saying that when the Nazis came into Vilna, the Zakan, it was after Chaim Ilson's Ptira, the Zakan V'Ayonim was the Macheshes. Macheshes, the Nazis felt that if they break the Zakan Dayonim and pray them through Vilna as broken, they have Vilna. So Rav Gusman, Zechon Tzaddik Livrocha, related that they were Yisurim of all the Asor Harugei Malchus together to try to break the Macheshes. And they couldn't break him. And they couldn't pray him through Vilna because they didn't break him. And they killed him. This Misaj Meshuna to the Chachmei Yisrael is not an isolated phenomenon. It's also what happens in Deiris. Torei Leiv, Kedoshe Mesu, Misa Chamura, Yadu Goyro, Mirishon Lacher Brura, Kinefol Goyro, Al Rabbi Gamliel, Al Rabbi Shimon, Poshat Tzavoroi, Ubocho Kinigzlo Gezero. He accepted it. Poshat Tzavoroi, Ubocho Kinigzlo Gezero. He himself cried, but it's a Gezero Min HaShamayim. L'Rabbi Shimon, or Rabbi Shmuel, Chozai Hegimon L'Ogoy, coming back, or from Rabbi Shimon, or to Rabbi Shmuel, they came to kill the next one. There was Rabbi Shimon, who was the Nasi Yisrael, and Rabbi Shmuel, who was the Kohen Gadol. Chozai Hegimoin L'Ogoy b'nefesh Nitzuro, Mizera Aroin, Shol bevakosho levakos al ben hagviro, al ben hagviro. The Hagmon's daughter wanted Rabbi Shmuel. He's a beautiful man, handsome, beautiful, whatever. not al Roshoi unesono. But before that, he said, they cut, you have to understand, in the full girl, he poshat savo, they cut his head off, okay? Not al Roshoi unesono, al akuvoisov. Rabbi Yishmael took Rabbi Shimon's head on his knees, on his loins, and he said, Menorah HaTehera, Som Einov al Einov. He put his eyes on the eyes of Rabbi Shimon. Ufiv al piv, v'ahavo gmura. Ona v'yoma pe hamisgabe b'teira. This mouth, which misgabe b'teira, pisoim nikdisa lov misa meshuna v'chamura. Sivu lahafshit es roishai besar haschira. They wanted to take they wanted to, I don't know how to say, to remove the skin of his face. Kiyam bioidai amroi lenafshech shchi v'navoiro rosh hapoishet eis chigia lemokon tefillin mitzvahs bo. When he got to the mokon tefillin of tefillin shalosh, tzoak tzoko v'nizdaza olam v'eretz hispoiro. It was a tremendous cry, and it was with cosmic effects. The whole world was shuddering. Vatamu itzchusoi l'doros kol arinoi bahadoro me'achoro veviu es Rabbi Akiva oike horim v'toichlan zo b'zoi b'svara. He was a brilliant, and brilliant's not the word. He was able to take mountains and grind them up one into the other with his intellectual prowess. V'solku es b'soroi, and they took and with the teeth of the iron teeth, a iron comb, yotzod memasrek shel barzel lishtabro. They combed his skin. Yotzon hishmosoi biechod b'shma Yisrael Hashem Elokeinu Hashem echod biechod b'chibo ubas kol omro ashrech Rabbi Akiva gufech toho b'chol minei toho. Ben Bobo, Rabbi Yehuda ben Bobo, Rabbi Yehuda Achrov heviu b'shivon lei v'yazhoro. Nerag ben shivim shono b'dei aruro. This cursed person. Yeshe b'sanis hoyenoki v'chosim b'mlachto l'maro. He was sitting with Tainus. Rabbi Hanania ben Tradion Achrov makil kihilois b'tzion shoro. He's machal kilos to learn. Even the Gezerah about learning. Yeshe v'deresh v'sefer Torah imoi v'kifuo b'chavleis moiro. They tied him with a sefer Torah with the tree twigs. Es hu hetzisu bohem v'korchu b'sefer Torah. And they tied him with the sefer Torah, the twigs, burning. Sfug shel tzema hinichu al liboy shelo yomus mehera. And they put a cotton on his heart to save his heart to be able to function, to go through all of this pain. Chosid Rabbi Yesheva v'aseifer hargu ama moira. They compare him to Stone v'amoira. Zokuhu v'ishlichuhu l'klovim v'lehukbak b'kvuro. They threw him and to the dogs, and he wasn't buried. Yotza basko lolov shlei niach klum miteres Moshe l'shomro. It was shema kol Torah kula. V'achro Rabbi Elazar ben Domo al mitzvos tefillin yishoro. V'achro Rabbi Chanino ben Chachinai. V'achro b'chutzbus b'yoyim evro. Oif ha'peireach nisrof behevel piv k'maduro. Oy. Tzadik Rabbi Elazar ben Shamuo. B'achroino nera kimat keiro. Yoyim erev Shabbos lo yezman kiddush. Vayikadesh vayikro. Cherev shufu lo v'lo inichu b'chaim l'goyim. We didn't let him finish to say vayichulu. Yotze nishmosoi b'voro Elohim yoytzer v'tzor tzuro v'Elokim lasois. That's how he was killed. Koheno v'choheno hoisifu b'nei avlo la'anois b'go'oro b'skilo sreifa herek chenek v'chenek miyuchol l'sharo dal misbezen or others which you can't even understand or can't imagine. Noichseres moi mimeno yochlu aroyos sep zuro chazei hatnufo v'shoy katrumo tarfu aye v'akfiro. Because we, the Chachmei HaMesorah, are the chazei v'tnufo or korbanos of the chazei, the chazei v'shoik of korban, and they were taken. Yeah. Yetiv Adonai v'lo Yosef oid liyasro. Ametz b'kayin koishlois chelek Yaakov u'Moshiach be'esoro. L'tzedek yimloich melech yoimar sholmu yemei evlech li'oroi nisa v'neilech. We are going li'ora of the Chachmei HaMesorah, the Matiki Hashmur. Now, let's have a Kinot on the destruction of the 3 kilos HaKodesh in Germany. In Germany was the center of Torah for Judaism in southern Germany, and the 3 communities were totally destroyed. And here, it's also in the singular. He's speaking to others, but it's an individual person who's going through and reliving the destruction of these 3 cities. Hachrishu mimeni v'adabero. Be quiet and let me speak. Vayavo alai mo. And I'll explain to you, discuss what I went through. Chomos ezak v'shoy l'cho shoychen shomaymo. And the screaming of Chomos, Hetzikasni ruchi v'loy uchal edoimo. It's impossible to be quiet. Adoim is to be doim, quiet. It's impossible. And the same way, you'll tell a woman who's in the process of giving birth, be quiet. A lot of women went through it. There's nothing, you can't. It's a natural thing to cry and scream. Kayoledo esh af v'eshoimo mispeid ma ese v'akoinen benimo. What am I going to do? I'm going to now say another hesped and another kinos. Mispeid ma ese v'akoinen benimo. Divrei shagosi yitchu kiyamo. And it's like a yam. There's no end. Sifti al adosi asher nitno l'shamo, orid besichi vo'imo, v'kol nehi orimo. Ech shovas mesreis v'yovo simcha. It was in a time of glee and great simcha, great happiness. Kol ponim poru v'chol rosh kocho, and we always see his destruction. V'chol zokon gedua, and the beards are just pulled out. V'al kol leiv enocha, and everyone just crying and weeping and in despair. Me'oz nis eure goy az koire shucha. This goy, the Crusades, they're coming. You know, being on a religious mission is what's worse than not being on a religious mission. You know, there's no end to brutality. They're doing in the name of God. Sila abirai hoge oiz umiftecho besulasai buchrai nosach banesicho. He killed both of them. B'reish kol chutzois nivlos and kashucha. Their bodies are strewn all over. Olai v'tapai nechshav v'katzayin tivcho. The young children, everyone killed. Its own tivcho. Elilo al zois v'dimosi al lecho, and my cheeks, there's still tears coming out because there's no misabel yosemidai. There's not enough crying. It's never enough. Heyosfu Eli divuye soin nitcho. Laharbois habechi, ulahorim tzvocho, helilu shomayim v'zaki adomo, and I call not only it's my personal cry for these communities, the three communities, but I call it's a cosmic tragedy, and I call shomayim v'oretz to cry with me. Shemayim v'oretz is a persona, crying. Now I call the Malachim also to cry. Erelim tzu v'tzoaku moro, to cry. Sephod and Tespid, Tamru heogdu b'chaburo, kol kechaylo, tzor k'mavkiro, his oinenu adase bezuro, olemo ki nigzlo gezeiro, b'chor yaf vozam v'yevro, v'nizvadu b'prishus u'v'toro. The separate priesthood of Torah, l'kadishem Hashemayim, l'kadishem hagodol v'anoiro, dying on Kiddush Hashem, v'ish es ochiv chizku bi'ezro. Everyone was mechazik the other one. Lidobek biyiro teheiro. At every moment of Kiddush Hashem. B'li kroya l'avoid the and not to be the spatim. Not to be over the Zohar, not to accept Catholicism. For lechosu gever ugviro, aponim sfiros tiforo, avol ozu gevuro yiseiro, lahaloim roish velikois shedro, v'eilim dibru ba'amiro, v'eilemo dibru ba'amiro, lo izochinu gadlom. He decided that they're going to take the children to convents or monasteries or whatever it is, and they decided this whole issue about you can't kill. We were not successful to megadol b'Torah, who about to die. Nakrivchem ke'oilo v'aktoro v'nizki mochem. We will make you like an oilo or aktoro v'aktoro. V'nizki mochem li'oiro hatzefuno me'ein kol v'alumo. We'll be zeich with you to the Olam Emes. Oz hiskimu gedolim ktanim lekabel bi'avo, to accept with love the din shechein ma'inim, the din of the Rebbeinu Shalom, shechein ma'inim, who is in these dwellings, shechein ma'inim, uzkenim dishenim v'ananim, young, old, young. Excuse me. Uzkenim shuheim dishenim v'ananim, that are full of youthful vigor. Uzkenim dishenim v'ananim, heim hoyu tchilo nidoinim, v'yotz lekosam azefonim, v'nergu hamoinim, v'nisovu pedorim im. Pirush Redoinim, as pointed out, that in Korbanos you can't mix things up. And these Korbanos were mixed up. It was impossible to identify anything, as we understand very well what that means. V'ovois asher hoyu achmonim nefchu li'arzo kayenim ve'fisu al ovois v'al bonim umi shegol ololoi Rishonim who nishchat b'chalofos v'sakinim, those were the ones that were killed. Uvachuim alei soilo emunim heim lochachu ofo kesaninim v'akalois levusha shonim, they were dressed in red. Mulofos bizrois chasonim mutochos becherev v'chidoinim zichu zois, a sight of complete destruction, complete brutality. And what do we say? Zichu zois ket kahal adas nevoinim, the midah of understanding, the tvuna, the adas nevoinim. Ve'al techashu mehalbois kinim, don't stop and say kinim al techshu. You should continue vispidu al chasidim v'hagunim asher tzol b'mayim hazeidoinim lezechazois nafshi agumo. Now, not only do we ask the cosmos to cry and shmayim v'oretz and Malochim, we ask the Torah itself to cry. Because the truth is, the Mesorah of Ashkenaz was these three communities. And Rashi, who studied there, was able to somehow promulgate. He happened not to be there when the Crusades came, and Min HaShamayim, it was through him that the Messiahs continue. Now Torah, chigrisak v'hispal shiva forim evel yochid hasiloch u'mispei tamurim al tevsei mishotaich, the ones who are holding the wheel, I think, of the ship, the ones holding Torah Shemal Peh, ufosei michmorim, malachayich v'choyvlayich v'mayim adirim. They direct the ship in these deep waters. Ochei marochech mi'ashri adurim. They make maroches of Torah and they put together problems and solve all the problems. Mefanchei tzifunayich u'megalim mistorim. They come to conclusions. They reveal the mysteries of Torah. Mi yikatze bigvoyos mi yisates behorim. Who are the ones that are going to venture out into the hills and to the quarries of the mountains and bring out the beautiful stones? Umi yifarek habayos, and those who are the ones that will interpret the words the issues in the Talmud, umi taret shvorim, mi yafli nezirois, umi yach nedorim. Those that claim there's no pirush of Rashi on Neziros and the Dorim, we're going to explain to us Mesechas Neziros and the Dorim. Mi yishadei mama makayich v'chatu ha'ikorim umi yilchom milchomteich v'yoshuv l'shorim. Who's going to be with what's going to be with Torah? Klei milchomo avdu v'noflu giborim. The utensils of war were lost, and the Giborim themselves were lost. Ashreihem maskilim, ki'okia zoharim, b'menuchay sholoim, nochu yeshorim, oy vavoy v'shevel noisorim, v'medivas nefesh, v'chavolim netzirim, l'chilyon einayim, Salmovis Lloyd Sidorim, Erev Oimrim. It was such a terrible time that those who lived were envious of those who died. Erev Oimrim, Mitein Tzforim, when will be morning, Uboikim Etzapim, Migale Oirim. Mimare Eineimo, Asheheimo Shorim. Michutshik L'Cherev, Vieimo Mehadorim. Ad Mosai Tabit, Roye Kol Mistorim, Kane L'Sorcho, Asher Sirofuho Zorim. We asked the Rabbi Ilson, it should be vengeful for the Torah that the Zorim destroyed, they burnt. Kilua, L'Zorim, they ripped it up into shreds. Kesirim, the Zavuchim, Higdilu, Hamadurim, Halele, Tisapek, Adoin Kol Yitzurim, Tinkoim Dam, Hanishbok Kamayim, Umugorim. We asked the Rabbi Ilson to be vengeful. Yishbach Domom, Mishoid Einayim, Me'en Kasurim, Am Shovei Pesha, Lunim, Umurim, Urichamo. Oisam bal tachrimimo, kanum tagbi avarimo orid b'shichibi mohimo v'kol nohimo. She would skip that. Okay, here's another one on Chav Hey. On the Crusades. That's the Rav pointed out. We'll see it over here. I'll just say it now, and I'll point out where it is in the middle of this Kinot. I think it's here in the middle of this Kinot, if I'm not mistaken. The destruction of the Crusades of the three Jewish communities was in the months of Iyar and Sivan, and still it was chosen to commemorate the cry on these communities on Tisha B'Av. And as the Kinot says, because Tisha B'Av is the day to cry for the tragedies, Jewish tragedies throughout the millennia. And this was one of the things the Rav used to speak about, what they made a Yom HaShoah, that he felt that should be Tisha B'Av. Okay, not discussing the pros and cons and why, whatever, okay. Mi ten roishimayim v'eini makor noizlai. Because again, cry and cry with no stop. V'efka kol yemoisai v'leilai. Eschalei tapai, v'ololai, yishishai kaholai, the young, the old, Vietnam. Anu avoy avoy oy valalai uvchein bochoy becher rav hereb Beis Israel vi'ala marinoy kinofel bechorev. In fact, what we say over the Taz, the Avelus of Sfira after Lag Ba'omer is because of Tatnu, the Gzeira, the Crusades. V'damoya tidma eini v'el choli sedei boichim v'yef v'avake ami morei levov ha'nevuchim al besulois hayofos v'yelodim orakim besifreihem nichrochin v'latvach nimshochim odmu etzem mipninim sapirim v'noifchim k'moi tit chutzos nideshes v'nishlochim su tomei kol lomoi milikorev. They took the kids with their svarim, threw them in dirt, killed them. Complete tragedy, and no say, they're just complete bodies all over the place, as we understand what that means. Again, there's no stop. Cry. We don't say ain't alles aber used to be die or the kol amarba is in meshubach. V'livchi v'lach go sok ekol aspido ksak hesped mipo zikoro v'zov chamuro pnimo kvudo kivod kol kli chemdo lisi akuo shchula v'galmudo Hatayra v'amikro v'amishno v'agodo anu v'koininu zois lahagido Tayra Talmud v'aloimdo. Where is it? Where's the Torah? There's nothing left. The Torah and the Talmud. Who's supposed to learn? V'aloimdo haloi amokoim me'ein yoishev chorev. More and more crying. This is one of the cities, Ashpira. We'll see. This is Ashpira. B'sheni b'shmoine boy. The second month means in Iyar. B'shmoine boy. B'yoi margoya hukro. Mergoya lilgoya. Nechafu laviro, nergu bachurei chemed v'shishai hadoro, nesvu yachad nafshom hashlimu b'moiro al yichud shem hamiyuchod. They killed at Kiddush Hashem. Yachdov b'gvuro giborei choyach. Oy say dvoroi lemaharo. They're interested in doing L'Ritzoyin Hashem, even though it means their dismal ending. V'choenei v'alumai nigvu kulham asoro. Uv'ma yigonai ma yigoni v'atzbi yilel achbiro kilus hakodesh. I'm remembering the Crusades in Tatnu. First we had Ashpira, now there's Vamaiza. Kahal Vamaiza, Bechuno. Goine Yeretz, L'kiyei Torah. Pamayim Kidshu Shem Hamayuchod B'moiro. The 23rd of Iyar. U'b'chodesh hashlishi Sivon b'kriyas Halel l'sheirah. Hishlimu nafshom bi'avo kshuro. Ohimo aleihem bivchi yolei lechashro. I'm still crying. Bulkulei cheser al roshom liatro. Now, we had Ashpira and Vamensia. Now we have Magensia. Ve'aladire kahal Magenso hahaduo minishorim kalu mi'arois lisgabro hishlimu nafsho ma'yichud shem anoiro. They were Mekadosh Shem Shemayim. V'aleim zakas sheva v'esh oro al shnei mikdosha yisoidom kayoim huoro. The yisoidis of the two Beis HaMikdash on this day were removed, the uprooted. V'al charvois ma'ot on the churban of Ma'at Mikdosh, Mikdoshai u'medrashei haTorah. And I'm crying also on those Ma'at Mikdoshim that were destroyed, these three cities. B'chodesh hashlishi b'shlishi noisav l'davo nemeiro, the third day of Sivan. Hachodesh asher nepach liyogon v'tzoro, that should have been the Yom HaMatan Torah. B'yoy matan dos sibalti lis asher, I wanted to be happy for Kabbalas HaTorah. Uv'yoyim nesinoso kamo kain os chozo, it went back on the same day that it was given. Also lo lamorum lemokom medeiro im teiko, it with its teiko malteiko, the various ways that was enveloped vadosha v'achoikro v'choikro, the one who's derish, the one who deeps into delves into the secrets of Torah. Loimdeho v'sheineho bi'ishoin k'moi bi'oiro, that they in night or day they're delving into the Torah, learning, all killed. Simu no al levavchem mispeid mar l'koishro. Now he's telling everyone to listen carefully. And about the hesped, then they say for these people, these three cities, Kishkula harigosom lis abel ulihis apro. One, it's equivalent, but he says, listen, lihis abel, to mourn, ulis apro is to do kriya. It's equivalent to what? Kisreifas beis Eloheinu ho'ulam v'abiro. These cities we should look at as equivalent to the Beis HaMikdash. V'chiein lo'haisif, and there should have been a separate day to cry somewhere in Sivon on Iyar. V'chiein lo'haisif moyed Sheva v'saveira, because we can't add another day. Ein lahaisif moyed Sheva v'saveira, to cry. V'ein lahaktim, and we can't make it earlier, which would have been in Sivan and Iyar. Zulasi le'acha, we should make it later. Tachas keit hayoim livyosi al-oreiro, I will cry today. V'espedo v'alilo v'efke b'nefesh moro, I will cry bitterly. V'anchosi kovdo miboike v'ad erev v'aleila ni boichia v'libi noyem nimois v'ekol makoine nois v'alachachomois eli v'elio chulam hoiga hoimois hayesh machoiv. Is there a something like this that I can compare it to? I'm just completely taken over emotionally. I can't handle it. Michutz teshakel cherev u'mechadorim eimois chalalei cherev mutolim arumim naked corpses all over the place. It sounds familiar. Nivlosam kisuro l'chayis eretz v'labehemois yoinek im ish sevo alomim avalomois misatiim bomoi moinei marbim bukleimois klimois Ey Elohei omu tzur chasoyu boy admois Yov. They were saying, hey, there's no God. Yovo v'yeshia v'yachsin nishomois chasin yo mi chomoicho noise alumois techeshe v'sapek v'loi sach go chamos b'mo elai maligei im Elohim hu yiror yorev. Now crying. Eini yodomayim is still constantly crying. Ki nishpach li evel mishoirer v'ugovi l'kol boichim milahofig u'lekorer mi yogur li umi machzik li his oirer Chemo bi yotzo v'sob misoir misgoirer acholani amamomai heitza hatzorer shibe atzmoisai zo meforer sela kol abirai hatabu v'ashorer l'tio mozo ein levorer. There's no band-aid, there's no way, there's nothing. Makosi anusho b'ein mas'il u'mezorer al kein omalti shu mini amorer bevchi demosi o lechoy tzorev al beis Yisrael ve'alam adinoi kinof bachorev. Okay. Yeah. Let's do. Okay. Let's do what we say. Let's go to Lamed Vav. I see we're coming towards it. That we can only appreciate Churban if we understand what it was bebinyan, and that's the pasuk in Eicho. Zion. Zocho Yerushalayim mei onyo mudeho kol mach mudeho asher hoyu mimei kedem ben the fall amo b'yatzo. You only appreciate Churban if you can look back and look at the beauty of Yerushalayim. And we look, this is Yehuda Levi looking at Zion as a persona. And we'll just do the first thing because I could do Kinot. Zion hal tishali l'sholom asirayich, doshe shlomech v'en yes adorayich. It's asking Zion and describing the beauty of Zion as a persona, looking and seeking the beloved, those that living in Eretz Yisrael. That is this is Lamed Vov. What I'd like to do is Mem Aleph. Sha'ali, this is Talmud. Rutenberg, who was the Gadol Ador, the Rebbe of the Rosh, he was the of all Chachmei Ashkenaz. He wrote they burnt the Talmud in many, many wagons. Shali Sufavesh Lishlom Avelayich Hamis Avim Shachon Bachatzaz Vulayich. He is sitting and crying for the burnt Talmud, and the Talmud that's being burnt or was burnt. Hashofim Bafar Eretz Vakoavim Vamish Toimimim Alei Moike Glilayich, the schreif of the Riyas of the Talmud. Hochim V'chasheichim V'ein Noiga V'koivim Li'ol Yoimom Haleim Asher Yizrach V'olayich Ushloim Enoish Nenach Boiche Belev Nishbo Tomid Mekoinen Alei Tzirei Chavaloich. The emphasis is, since there was no printed Talmud and it was only written, and the church gathered all the Talmud that they were aware of and burnt, Mam Rutenberg was afraid that this was the end of Torah Shabbat Peh. And that's what he was crying. We're in darkness, there's no light. Now, Tomid Mekainen, the same way that there's, we said that Avelis Yosemidai is not a problem. Avelis Yishon, as Rob pointed out from the Tshuva of Haigoin, it's also Ramban. It's not only in the Churban of the three Jewish German cities in southern Germany, not only from the Churban of the Asor Hugei Malchus and Beinu Bas Rabbi Yishmael, but also for the Churban on the Talmud itself. Ushloim enoish nenoch boiche belev nishbo tomid mekainein alei tzirei chavolayich. V'yisoinein, that's tomid. It's always the tzirei chavolayich, that which they were destroying. V'yisoinein kesanim u'benois yano v'yiko mispeid ma bigloloyich. I'm calling another husband, Eicho Nesuno, and the same Eicho for Churban Abayis was an Eicho over here for the Churban of the Talmud. Eicho Nesuno v'eish Eichlo to ukol be'eish boso v'loy nichvu zom bigachloich. How is it possible that the Talmud should be consumed by human fire and they shouldn't be consumed by the heavenly Shechina? Adon Adina is the Vatican, Rome. Tihi Sheichno B'roiv Heshkeit, it's sitting quietly, tranquility. Ufnei Prochai Haloi Chisu Chalu Layich. Teishe B'roiv Gavo Lishpoit B'nei El B'chol HaMishpotim V'sovi V'frilayich Oy Tigzo Lisroif Das Eish V'chukim V'lochein Ashrei Sh'yishalem Loch G'mulayich. He's saying the church should get what it deserves. Tsuri B'lapid V'eish Halavu Zeh Nosnom Ki bachrisech talahet eish b'shalo shaloich. Is it that the reason why the Torah was given with fire is that it should be destroyed and brought back with fire at some point? Sinai ha'al kain b'chor bochar Elohim u'moz b'gdoilim v'zoch b'gvulayich liyos l'moifes l'dos ki sima'et v'seired b'chvuda v'hein emsho b'sholayich. You're going to go down and down. That's why you were chosen, because the Torah is going to go down. You're the smallest mountain. Moshe lemelech asher bocha lemishte benoi tzofu asher yigva gan at kein at b'milayich tachas me'il tiskas Sinai levushech besak ta'ate levush almenus tachlif smolayich oy dmoyos adi yiyu v'nachal Agiu lekvoris shnei sorei atzirayich Moshe ve'Aaron boho. And to these two people who were responsible for Torah, v'yeshal yesh Torah chadosha, maybe there's a new Torah b'chei nisval g'layich chodesh shlishi v'huksha revi'i lahashchis chemdosech. And here in the fourth month, third and fourth month, they want to destroy the Torah. Okay, maybe we should just do Eli Tzion. And it's a call for the Avelis Yosef Midai. The game will finish with Kinot, so we should still cry. Eli Tzion v'oreho, kmo isha b'tzireho, v'chivtzu lo chagu asak, al baal nureho, alei almon asher nutash, v'ashmoisoin adoreho, v'al bias mechofeyeho, v'soich mikdash adoreho, alei nurgolus mishorus eyel. Minimero, mini ish mizmorero, v'al domo asher shupach, k'moi meimei yorero, alei hegyoim, v'mircholero, asher domam biorero, v'al avad asher shomein, ubitus aniredio, alei zivchei tzimidero, ufidyonei b'choirero, v'al chiluk le'hechol u'mizbach k'toireho alei tapei milocheho b'nei David givireho v'al yofyom asher choshach b'yei soruch yisoreho alei chovoid asher golo b'yei schuban dvireho v'al loichetz asher lochatz v'som chzakim v'chagoreho alei mochatz v'oiv makos asher huku nizireho v'al niputz elei sela ololeho nioreho alei simchos oiveho sohaku al shivoreho v'al inui b'nei chorin nidiveho toreho alei fesha asher so derech ashureho v'al tzvois kiholeho shizufeho shichoreho alei koilois michofeho v'yeis rovu figoreho v'al rikshas migadfeho v'soich mishkan chatzereho alei shimcho asher Fifi, kom b'mitzoreho, v'yal tachan yitzav chuloch, kishoy b'shma amoreho, Eli Tzion v'oreho, kmo isha b'tzireho, v'chivsu lo chagu asak, al baal nureho.